that the difference between Arteta and Guardiola, I think, was laid bare a little bit yesterday with this decision about the goalkeeper. Because when Arteta came to Arsenal, he said the one thing he'd really learned from Pep was you've got to be ruthless if you want to win things. And the truth is, the ruthless decision would have been to have played Raya, who is right now arguably the best goalkeeper in the world in sensational form.
talkSPORT Sports Update powered by the Nissan Van range. Commercial vehicles built around your business. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van centre.
With your headlines at 1 minute past 10, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. As Spurs continue to deliberate on who'll be in charge for the last 7 games of the season, former boss Harry Redknapp's told us it's time for a change.
Decisions they've made have not worked out for them. I mean, it's been an incredible season, really, Andy, when you think about it. I mean, you could see Tottenham being in a relegation battle.
Spurs are keen to give Tudor space following the death of his father. If they make the move, we understand the options are as follows. Ex-Monaco head coach Adi Hütter, former Spurs players Chris Hughton or Robbie Keane, although Keane wants a longer-term deal. We're told Roberto De Zerbi is waiting to see if Spurs survive the drop. Now, we're told Ben White deserves his England recall, despite walking out on the squad 4 years ago, and that comes from someone who never got the chance.
He had his own opinions of leaving a camp, and we all had our opinions at the time. But it's only him who can decide whether he thought that was the right thing or the wrong thing now. What he's done is he's kept his head down, carried on playing well for Arsenal and earned a call from Thomas.
Kevin Nolan says White's flexibility makes him a good fit for Thomas Tuchel's squad. It's reported White fell out with Steve Holland all those years ago. Meanwhile, how much would you pay for an England replica shirt? England Supporters Travel Club member Nick Jones is happy to fork out £135.
For me as well, these are collector's items that, you know, eventually I'll store away and they'll be my son's, and I'll pass them on to him. So I don't just look at it as a shirt you wear. I look at it as it's a piece of memorabilia as well.
Scotland's and Wales's Adidas kits will set you back £120 each. And talkSPORT Steve Harmison thinks Brendan McCullum only deserves 6 months worth of rope. He says the head coach needs to prove he can change and allow more specialist coaches into his setup. More at talksport.com.
talkSPORT News.
New reforms for vets will aim to make things more transparent and potentially cheaper. And the US wants peace talks with Iran while Israel vows to keep fighting. More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. With over 400 EV-ready centres across the UK, we're top of the league for electric car owners. Visit quickfit.com and book today.
Mostly dry and cloudy across the south. Elsewhere, a band of rain's moving southeastward. Windy across the country and gales in the north, where it's turning colder this afternoon.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Jim White and Simon Jordan. We are live on talkSPORT. So, a poor Six Nations, but Borthwick remains. An Ashes drubbing, but McCullum and Stokes remain. So why is football wired differently regards the sacking culture? Meanwhile, should personal or political beliefs preclude you from jobs in management? Also today, former Chelsea and Spurs midfielder Gus Poyet will join us in studio, as does ex-Celtic striker Mark McGee. Why doesn't the Premier League replicate French-style indulgence? Should football ever be sidelined for a music concert? And are Newcastle outgrowing Howe? Or is Howe outgrowing Newcastle? Jim White and Simon Jordan were live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
How was the walk down from Waterloo Station this morning?
All right, taking advantage of the decent, mild weather.
Yes.
It's going to rain, isn't it?
Or is it?
Apparently.
Later, I saw you come in with your brolly, which
I'm prepared.
You lean against the studio table here.
Yes, no, what I want to do with it is some of this is what I want to do with it.
Is ram it somewhere.
Open it in your mouth.
Incidentally, newsreader there, he's a newsreader, but he's a whole lot more than that. Nick Ellaby, very talented young man. I believe you spoke to Nick about your music tastes in recent days. This is for talkSPORT Early Sport Breakfast. He also spoke to me. Now, did the specials get a mention in your...
So what were you talking about, Perry Como or people like that?
Matt Monro, Perry Como. Yeah. I was talking about Rage Against the Machine.
Please.
Bomb Track, Bulls on Parade.
Please.
Now, where did you... I take it you would tell everyone and bore them rigid that you reformed the special.
No. I don't even... Nick asked me to do him a favour for some digital stuff, which I'd normally turn my nose straight up at.
Right.
But because I like him, I said yes. And it's something to do with Uber, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
so I believe
something to do. I didn't realise that when I was sitting there doing and asking all these questions about this, and I was like, "Oh, that's a bit more than that, is it?"
Yeah.
But they ask about bands. That if you could have a stage and put bands onto, which bands would you listen to, and which bands would you put on an alternative
hence
stage?
Rage Against the Machine, the alternative stage, the Robert Cray band for me.
Very good.
But you've gone with this. Who was your alternative stage?
The
band?
Doors.
The Doors. Okay, all right. But you like Nick? Yeah.
He's all right.
He's all right. He doesn't like you. Now then, Tottenham officially confirmed yesterday that the father of Igor Tudor had sadly passed away. Tudor was unable to carry out his post-match media duties after the game against Forest at the weekend, a game, of course, that Tottenham Hotspur lost at home by 3-0. He couldn't carry out his post-media duties because of this immediate family bereavement, and it turns out it was his dad. Tottenham made a statement. Everyone at Tottenham Hotspur is deeply saddened to hear of the passing of Igor Tudor's father, Mario. Our thoughts and condolences go out to Igor and his family during this incredibly difficult time. So I think Igor, Simon, is back in his native Croatia at this time. As an owner, Simon, and you were one, of course, mate, how do you begin to approach a manager dealing with personal loss alongside the immediacy of your club's situation? And everybody knows what a difficult situation Tottenham are in right now.
In all honesty, you have to separate the two. I mean, depends upon your relationship with the manager. If you've had a long relationship with the manager and you're very involved in different aspects of his character, life and experiences, then you have a different relationship with him. This is a very new relationship. So it doesn't mean you don't have to be empathetic or unempathetic. You have to be mindful of the circumstances, but your relationship with Tudor is a professional relationship. And if your decision was going to be that you were going to dispense with his services and whatever the consequences of that were economically, and given the fact he's going in the summer anyway, because that was the game, that was the nature of the relationship you entered into, you have to make the same decisions with all the best will in the world. I mean, he himself may not feel that he wants to manage a football team right now. He may feel, with the loss of his father, that that's the last thing he wants to do. So who knows what's in that circumstance.
That's a very good point, Simon. So in terms of the future, has it now, in view of what you're saying, and I agree completely, has this now become more of a joint decision for Tudor and Spurs as opposed to the club alone?
No, not really. Because if Igor Tudor decides that actually this is a welcome distraction from the tragedy that he's just experienced in his life and he wants to manage the team, and you as an owner think that actually you've seen all you need to see from him prior to the tragedy in his personal life, you're still going to have to take a view. And all people that are sitting out there going, well, that's heartless, it's nothing to do with heartless. It's to do with the reality of the world that we live in. There is no point keeping somebody in a job if you were going to take him out of that job prior to the tragedy that's in his life. It might even, without wanting to be overly harsh, it might even cement the thinking, because you've got two situations. You've got, you are teetering on the point of saying this man is not capable of doing the job that we need him to do, and that's not a reflection just of him, it's a reflection of all of us, because the playing squad, us as an ownership model, everything is not right.
Yes.
We need some shock and awe, and it hasn't happened with him, coupled with the fact that you may now perceive him to be distracted for obvious reasons. So I think if your decision was made post the Forest game, in terms of you got beaten this Forest game, you were going to make a change, then with the best will in the world, You can do that with a great deal of empathy to the man. You will honour your commitment to him economically, I suspect.
Yeah.
And say, look, we think it's for the best interest. Whilst the timing is not ideal and the circumstances are not great, it was a decision that we were going to make anyway. And you can handle that. And you handle that properly by doing it from principle to principle. If that was in my shoes, I'd be doing it by saying to the man himself, not from one of my acolytes or one of the people that was delegated to take these sort of decisions. If I'm the decision maker, I'd be the person saying to Igor Tudor, look, you have the greatest sympathy for me in the circumstances in your life, but we are going to look at the professional side of this relationship.
Right. Our condolences here at talkSPORT go out to Igor at this difficult time for him. On the football front, there are other names in the frame who may or may not be ready to come in if indeed Tottenham or Igor make the decision not to carry on. The blame game continues, though, Simon, that apart for Tottenham's situation. But at times you might err on the side that football has become too obsessed with seeking a fall guy when things go wrong. The reason I say that, in the world of rugby, despite many calls to sack Steve Borthwaite after a damning Six Nations campaign, the RFU have come right out behind their man. They've pushed back on calls to make a change. In the world of cricket, the ECB has defended its decision to stick with the head coach, Brendan McCullum, following their 4-1 Ashes drubbing and allegations of a drinking culture, meaning everyone that oversaw those proceedings stays in situation. In fact, on those drinking culture allegations, Rob Key, who is one of those who is staying in his position, and a fairly lofty one at the ECB, he has spoken about those allegations. Have a listen.
So you're trying to find a way so they can escape, get away from something, especially an Ashes series, where the scrutiny, the intensity of it is so great. You're trying to get them away from it every now and again so they can just relax and think about something else. Now, you've got to make sure you're doing that in the right way, and at times they may not have done. But ultimately, you're trying to create an environment, or we tried to create an environment where players make the right decisions. They make the right decisions, what's best for them to perform later on. And actually, at times, if you've got to get to a point where these players are making the right decision. That's what we want to do. We don't want to be school teachers that are just telling them you can't do this, you can't do that. Then you end up with a problem, the other end of it, where players burn out because of the constant pressure that they're under. So it's trying to find that balance.
So that was Rob Key. Jeffrey Boycott, Simon, you might not be surprised to hear. The England tour of Australia was embarrassing and at times a farce, but nobody is laughing now. The worst pre-planned Ashes tour in my lifetime, and nobody is held to account or to blame. So again, I put it to you, mate. In the world of rugby, it seems it's different. In the world of cricket there, it appears to be different. Why is football seemingly wired differently in how it reacts to those who are under pressure?
Well, first of all, you shouldn't draw comparisons between domestic football and international cricket and international rugby, because they're different animals with different requirements and different expectations and different dynamics attached to them. If you're a domestic football manager, you're managing people on a regular basis. You have more influence over what they're doing and control them because you're coaching them. When you're picking an international side, albeit cricket and rugby are slightly different from football, you have less time around them. There are different factors that you have to come into play. Being accountable for something doesn't mean being fired. In Jeffrey's world, who I happen to like, grew up watching Jeffrey Boycott as a batsman. I like him as a character, speaks his mind. Don't always agree with the things he says, but that's fine. People can disagree. Just because you've got something wrong. What they don't like, the thing about the cricket is what they don't like is they're all told to shut up, mind their own business. All of these cricketers that went on tours where they got beat, where they got spanked by the Aussies, were giving advice to a cricket team that what Ben Stokes said was unwise. He shouldn't have used the expression has been. So that's why they've all got their knickers in a twist about the fact that all of these great players have made observations about the preparation for this and they were borne out. Because if this cricket series had gone right, there'd have been nothing for them to say. Because the cricket series hasn't gone right, they're all up in arms because Ben Stokes and the management team cocked a snook at them. We're not interested in you. And with respect to those great players that are part of great teams, they never went to Australia and they never won either. So with due respect to their expertise and their advice and what they do and don't think, they're not much of a reference point.
Yeah, but in cricket, international level or not, the cricketers still messed up big time. So should McCullum stay? In rugby, England messed up big time. Should Borthwick stay? Tottenham are messing up big time. Igor's on the way out, apparently.
But that's a domestic set of circumstances with different contexts attached to them. First of all, the reasons why
it's still accountability.
Hang on, the reasons why football managers are fired are very clear. Why are they fired? Because there's money involved. And the cost implications of a relegation for Tottenham Hotspur will supersede the idea of any time for progress, any time for people to make mistakes and regroup. If England lose at the Ashes, it's disappointing, it's demoralising, it's dispiriting. You do not then wash away all the good work that Brendan McCallum has done. Because ultimately it's not a cliff edge. It's disappointing. You get vilified. You get told that you're not a good cricket team. You lose certain elements of your profile, but you don't fall off a financial cliff edge. So there's different dynamics that are attached to the sports, and maybe there shouldn't be. But there is also a propensity to fire people the moment things go badly. I don't think that's right. I think people need to have an opportunity to fix things and learn from lessons. If you want to if it's better for Jeffrey and all those voices that are coming out, I think that's flaky what Rob Key said there, by the way, because what you don't want is players to make choices where they go out and get in altercations with bouncers in New Zealand,
right,
create the game, bring him into disrepute.
Right.
What you do want to say to the players is you are not just here on a jolly, you're not just here to relieve pressure. There's nothing wrong with being under pressure. I'll tell you what the pressure you can have, standing on the dole queue, rather than playing international cricket for your country and enjoying the world that you really should be enjoying. And the pressure of playing an Ashes series is a privilege. So whilst we allow you to go out for a drink, it doesn't mean you have to be a school teacher to say to these players, you need to understand the responsibility that you have upon yourself and your country and everyone else around you to perform properly on the pitch and not to give people an excuse when you're not performing off the pitch to be able to come at you with a different perspective. So that's weak from Rob Key, and that's cronyism to be able to justify. Now, I would imagine that a few people have had strips torn off them. I would imagine that a few people have their minds concentrated. Now, if you see these people become recidivists, they do it again, then by all means. But this propensity for the moment it goes wrong to say the only accountability is the sack.
Right.
Now, that's great.
That's the case in football.
Well, again, it isn't necessarily, because often managers get a little bit more time. In this circumstance where you've got a desperate circumstance, the problem with football is there's a finite amount of time to resolve the problem. There isn't a finite amount of time to resolve the problem in cricket, because you're going to get another Ashes series. If you get relegated from the Premier League in Tottenham Hotspur's position, you're going to wipe out 200-300 million quid. People are going to lose their jobs. The club's going to be in disrepute and disrepair, and there's a real consequence. Whereas if you lose an Ashes series, you're going to get a load of people in the media saying it's not good enough.
Having said that, just before we hit the break, if an England manager oversaw a fairly disastrous World Cup campaign, during which time there was a perceived drinking culture amongst the players, he'd be given his papers.
Oh, you mean like the drinking culture that went to Hong Kong before the 1996 Euros that Terry Venables presided over, and they celebrated it. And Venables came out and galvanised it and said everybody should be looking at it differently.
Different time, though, isn't it?
Oh, okay. So it was the times that make the man rather than the man that make the times, is it?
Okay. When we come back the other side of this break, a lot to get into. And remember, a couple of very good guests coming our way in studio this morning. Gus Poyet for one, Mark McGee another.
What an old Millwall manager?
Aberdeen, former Celtic player, Mark McGee. And by God, Mark can talk, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again. Here's one for you. Should personal or political beliefs go as far as to preclude you from roles in football? We'll get into that next. Matt, the Tottenham fan, and Matt, what do you know, has called in. Matt, good afternoon. Where are you at after that home defeat to Forest, mate?
Well, guys, nice speaking to you.
Nice to speak to you, Matt.
It's not a great position to be in, to be honest. And thanks to Martin's team, the gloss, the pressure has been taken away, because you guys are too busy, you media lot, are too busy battering a team that's 9 points clear, and you're looking for a downfall from that football club, yet you look down the road and you guys can't even have the decency within yourselves to actually start pointing fingers And all you want to do is blame manager after manager and that player and the other player, but you just can't bring it to yourselves to actually go, do you know what? It was that previous chairman, that parasite, which I'll never give him airtime to say his name because he's Simon's mate, who he can't even have the guts, because he's too busy protecting his mate, to have the guts to actually go, do you know what? Actually, it stemmed from him because they told him, do what you please within the margins. He then does what he wants.
Yeah, but Matt, here's the thing, mate. Daniel Levy wasn't playing on the pitch yesterday when you lost 3-0 to Nottingham Forest. One of the big stories coming out of the Championship, and there are many, is Wrexham. Are Wrexham actually going to do it? Back-to-back promotions. If they get their way and get into the playoffs, and say they get to Wembley and win and go up to the Premier League, what a story that will be for the Hollywood owners and for everybody else. Josh Windass, Wrexham striker, formerly Sheffield Wednesday, formerly Rangers, is going to be joining us later on this morning. Looking forward to Josh joining us. Big fan of the show, big fan of yours, Mr. Jordan. Here's the thing. And I want your view on this, Simon. I'm pretty damn sure I'm going to get it. John Terry liked a post from Rupert Lowe. And this, over the weekend, has very much split opinion. Rupert Lowe, who is Rupert Lowe? He's the former chairman of Southampton. Rupert Lowe, these days, is an independent member of Parliament and founder of Restore Britain. Now, Lowe's post pictured a London tube station, Whitechapel, which has its name translated into Bengali alongside the English name. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on telly this morning, you'll see this. We're illustrating it as we go here. And Rupert Lowe then makes the comment, and if you're watching, as I say, you'll be able to read it at the moment. The picture was taken in London. Restore Britain would ban the burqa, and Restore Britain would ensure that all London stations use English. Enough is enough. Vote Restore Britain to get our capital city back. Now, that's one thing. But John Terry then jumped in and seemingly endorsed that post by commenting with 3 applauding emojis and the national flag of England. Having done that, John then deleted what he endorsed. Now, The Athletic posted on Twitter, John Terry has appeared to endorse a UK politician's social media post that advocates for a nationwide ban on the burqa before deleting his comment. The former England captain is still involved in football and has been in an academy coaching consultancy role with Chelsea since 2021, working in a part-time capacity that involves mentoring academy players. They go on to say Rupert Lowe is an independent member of Parliament and founder of Restore Britain. Restore Britain was launched in June as a pressure group and announced in March that it was an officially registered political party. It does not hold any seats in Parliament. In other words, it's fine for Rupert Lowe to say what Rupert Lowe wants to say, but is it fine for John Terry, who is still involved in football? As The Athletic points out, he's been in an academy coaching consultancy role with Chelsea since 2021, working in a part-time capacity that involves mentoring academy players. Where do you stand on that, Simon? Should personal, I mean, regards John, he's in an industry, should he, of course, which is all-inclusive, should he have thought twice before he endorsed Lowe's post? In other words, should personal or political beliefs go as far as to preclude you from roles in football? Because John is still looking for his big managerial role in the game.
Well, he probably should have thought twice if he could have worked out that the Athletic were going to make some idiotic association with the fact that because you liked something that someone said, you like everything they said. So the fact that he particularly agreed, which by the way I do agree with, that renaming English buildings or locations in other languages outrageous. It wouldn't be done anywhere else in the world, and I don't know why it has to be done in our country. And liking that and agreeing with that doesn't then leap into the fact that he then agrees with every other thing that Rupert Lowe says. You're allowed to agree with something that someone... I agree with lots of things that Keir Starmer says, but I don't agree with the policies of Labour full stop. I don't agree with everything that comes out of their mouth. It's a ridiculous association. And to suggest that John Terry has subsequently got into bed with banning the burqa, I mean, it's just nonsense, because that's one instance of what Rupert Lowe has said, and it's not everything that necessarily Rupert Lowe does or doesn't stand for. So I don't understand the point of this. It's just gotcha.
No, but as you know, John is Chelsea through and through.
Yeah.
Chelsea's inclusion policy stated that one of their equality objectives is ensuring we are drawing from all parts of society and that our colleagues reflect the diverse environment that surrounds the club.
So he doesn't sit.
So how does that sit?
But how does it sit
with John endorsing something that Lowe has posted?
But he's endorsing something about changing the name of a train station from Whitechapel to a Bengali version of it, which nowhere else in the world would do. He's not talking about the burqa. He's allowed to have an opinion on something that someone else says. There's plenty of people, I suspect, in your life that you've agreed with some of the things they've said, not everything they've said. So are you only allowed to agree with people if you agree with everything they've ever said? Now, insofar as the burqa is concerned, well, I'm not entirely sure what's inclusive about that. And in a country where we talk about facial recognition being part of it, how does that work with a burqa? And I don't know how many kids are running around on football pitches with burqas, so I don't see the relevance of it.
But when you were involved in football, Simon, did you always go public with your political beliefs?
Not particularly, but if I felt like it.
Why?
Because I wasn't that motivated at the time. But I certainly wouldn't have excluded myself from it. If I felt I had a strong enough view, I think I did actually. I think actually at one particular time when we had the bombs go off in London and the Italians wouldn't bring a football team to London because of the 2005 bombs going off, I think I went berserk about it, because I think actually my team was being affected by the fact that one of the Italian clubs wouldn't come because they were frightened of the consequences of being in London. And I thought it was political cowardice that was hiding behind that. So I think I have said things in the past. So I don't see it as particularly controversial. I don't think it's because it's John Terry. And because John Terry's had situations in his past where you're making this association, this has nothing to do. John's allowed to have an opinion. He's allowed to agree with an individual opinion of someone else, not the entire gambit of all his opinions. But the media are making this assertion. We're saying that because Rupert Lowe said this over here, that over here, the point that there's no reference in this tweet to burqas, nothing to do with that.
He's applauding the tweet.
He's applauding what...
And then the tweet. Lowe goes on about Restore Britain would ban the burqa. John's applauding it. Well, do you build a picture in your mind of where John's political leanings go, and then months after that, a big job in management comes up, and you're interviewing John Terry? Do you allow that to seep into your mind when you're doing the interview? I mean, does that make a difference to whoever's interviewing John regards that
not
post
necessarily,
that political that position in the game?
Agreeing with a particular principle doesn't mean that you're not inclusive. Again, I make the point, what is inclusive about the burqa for everybody else? How's that inclusive for everybody else? I mean, you're talking about something that flies in the face of the societal values we have in this country. We've got facial recognition coming in. We've got VAR being part of football. How do these things become part of it? And we're not talking about burqas appearing on a football pitch. We're now talking about kids whose parents might wear a burqa. You're allowed to disagree. You are allowed to say, well, I'm not very comfortable with that. You're going to do it, that's fine, that's your prerogative. I'm not going to prejudice against you. But I'm also allowed to say I don't like it.
I agree with you. You're allowed to disagree. You're allowed to have your view. John demonstrated, to a degree, his view by applauding Lowe's post. Yeah.
Should he stay with it?
Should he have stayed with it, or should he have? Was he right to delete it?
I think so.
Did he see the storm in the horizon like the Athletic?
Probably. Probably he could work out the small-mindedness of other people's points of view that want to categorise people.
That's in your view.
Well, I think it is particularly small-minded to say to something you don't agree with the principle of something doesn't mean you're not going to be able to coach young boys from diverse backgrounds. It's a ridiculous association. Because, I mean, I'm not a fan of Rupert Lowe's. I dealt with Rupert Lowe when he was a Southampton chairman, and there's no way that Rupert Lowe will be on my Christmas card list. So I'm not defending him because I agree with his principles. He originally was with Nigel Farage, fell out with him at Reform, has established this particular party and has his own strong views. And some of his views I concur with. Some of his other views I don't concur with. Yeah. And if John concurs with the idea in this country that there's a degree of discomfort around facial coverings, that's not racism, it's an alternate view. And you're allowed to have it. And because we live in this stupid binary world where if you don't agree with something, you're a racist or a misogynist, you're an Islamophobe, you're whatever people want to do to try and discredit your argument. I am not comfortable running around London seeing train stations being renamed in Bengali. I don't know why it needs to be done. No one else in the world does this.
Well, the bilingual signs were formally installed in March 2022. They've been around for a while.
This is not bilinguality.
To coincide with Bangladesh Independence
This is not
Day.
bilinguality.
So getting back to my original question,
bilinguality's got nothing to do with it. You're renaming place names in this country. That's not bilinguality.
Next to it. But should personal or political
Fantastic.
beliefs go as far as to
be.
preclude you from your roles in football, you would say, in this instance, regards Terry and like
why should it?
No, it shouldn't.
Okay, they make the alternate argument why it should.
Because the argument would be it builds a picture in your mind.
No, it doesn't.
Of somebody's character away from the field of play.
It's not about intolerance. It's about having an alternate view. If you're not comfortable, as lots of people are, with people having their faces covered in this country for their own reasons and not integrating into this country, then that doesn't make you racist. It makes you have a different point of view. And it doesn't mean you're not capable of teaching kids from all different backgrounds.
It just
because you don't agree
wasn't very advisable for John, particularly John, because of what's going on in the past with John.
Well, you can't be... Yes, I suppose so. From knowing where it could lead to...
So it does build a character profile.
That makes it unwise. Knowing where it could lead to. But you can't live your life in the minds of small-minded people that want to categorise and forever put you in a position where you can be compromised by having a different view to what they may have. So I don't think it should preclude John. I don't think it should indicate that he's not capable of integrating and working with people from different backgrounds. He just happens to hold a principle that's slightly different to the people that are possibly writing that article.
Fair enough. Just gone 10:30. Let's hear from Leo Rossinha following Saturday's 3-0 loss at Everton. Really poor performance from Chelsea at the weekend.
Yeah, it's been a tough week. These players, some of them, this isn't an excuse. This is a reality for some of these players have played already the most games in a season they've played in their career. Up to this point. What I need to do and what I need to do better is make better decisions in terms of team selection, how we freshen the team up, how we rotate the team to make sure that we're competitive in these games. I think having the international break now has probably come at the perfect time for us to regather, restock. And also we have some clear weeks in the weeks to come where we can actually get on the training pitch for the first time and work with these players in what we want.
Right, accept the bit at the end, right? I think that's important on the training pitch.
Ground,
But I ain't having that, it's more than some of these games these players have played and all that stuff. Come on, that's not what the Chelsea fans want to hear. We're talking about a level of performance here. The level of performance the last few games has been extremely poor. First thing you've got to say, and we've not done enough of it today, we've got to say brilliant Everton, brilliant Sunderland, all those kind of things. But we're looking at Chelsea at this moment in time. No, that performance at the weekend and those performances and the defeat against PSG hasn't got anything to do with players having too many
tiredness.
games.
No, that's ridiculous. This is an excuse that I can hear. Honestly,
you can't feel tired.
Paris Saint-Germain has played the same amount of games. Look what they're doing. But you cannot compare Paris Saint-Germain and Chelsea because they are different level. Yeah. But when a manager tries to find that kind of excuses, I think he's putting finger in front of him and he's trying to hide himself.
talkSPORT's Steve Harmison says Brendan Baz McCullum only deserves 6 months' worth of rope as England head coach. The ECB's Richard Gould decided to stick with managing director Rob Key as well, despite that disastrous Ashes winter. Our talkSPORT cricket editor John Norman says the elephant in the room is Baz.
We still haven't heard from him, and the big question is he going to change? Yeah. And that was a question that was continually asked of Rob and Richard, and I didn't really feel like I got an answer.
Now, as Spurs weigh up a managerial change during this international break, former Monaco head coach Adi Hütter's rumoured to be in the frame. talkSPORT's European football expert Andy Brassel wonders why.
I can't see what particular element of him would recommend him to this situation at Spurs and why he would want to damage his reputation to doing this.
Now, we understand Bosnia midfielder Benjamin Tahirovic has called Steve Cooper to apologise for getting him in trouble. Cooper is the player's manager at Brondby. The Bosnia head coach had accused Welshman Cooper of deliberately dropping Tahirovic ahead of their playoff against Wales, but it looks like Tahirovic was the source of this fake news. Meanwhile, Republic of Ireland assistant John O'Shea says there's a great vibe in the Ireland camp.
It's that cup final scenario. Everyone's wanting to get in the team, the intensity, the noise and the atmosphere around the boys is brilliant.
They play Czechia in a World Cup playoff tomorrow. There's plenty more at talksport.com.
Deal on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. For the latest special offers, pick up this month's Real Deals in branch or view online at selcobw.com.
Let's pick out who's been the real deal this week with Selco Builders Warehouse. Simon, over in La Belle France, Zinedine Zidane, it's been announced that he's expected to take, it's been reported, he's expected to take over from Didier Deschamps as the France manager after this summer's World Cup. Deschamps leaving his role at the end of the tournament in the US of A when his contract expires. He's held the role since 2012. But here's the thing, Zidane, of course, a phenomenal footballer. He's had one job before this, and that was Real Madrid. He's long seemed destined to manage the national team that he famously, of course, led to success as a player when they won the World Cup at home in France in 1998. But how is this working? One job before becoming the France national manager. Is he proof that employing reputation and reputation alone can work? Or is Zidane merely a special case on his own merit?
Probably a bit of both. I mean, the international job requires... what was the credentials for Gareth Southgate to get the England manager's job? Winning manager? Successful manager? Not particularly.
Reputation? Safe pair of hands?
Safe pair of hands, well seeded within the confines of the
stabiliser, togetherness.
Yeah, all of those things. And maybe but Zidane is a continuity exercise. You've got an elite footballer in Didier Deschamps, who was a highly successful player as well. Morphing into an international manager, being in the manager's job for 14 years. Zidane's managed the most difficult club in the world to managed it over a period of time. He's taken sabbatical. He's not coming back to full-time management. Don't care how much you slice and dice it. International management doesn't carry the same workload and responsibilities as domestic management. So it shows you where Zidane is and what he feels about his football management career. At the end of the day, he was in a wonderful position to manage Real Madrid because he got to manage some of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
And seemingly managed them okay. They got outcomes. I think that was as much to do with the talented players that he's got. I would imagine that managing Accrington Stanley might be more difficult for Zinedine Zidane. But going to manage a French side that's got a plethora of elite players must suggest that it's about reputation alongside prestige and profile of the individual, and the fact that he is able to communicate with top players, as he's proven before. And whether he's out of touch, they're not asking him. He's got eyes. He would have been watching football. He's not scouting players and trying to buy players. They're there. You've got a limited amount of French players of a level in terms of all international players. You've got a certain amount of players that you can have and pick from. They will know who they are. He will know who the best players are. I don't see any issue with it. I think it's a completely different job, international.
It seems like the best way to manage elite players is get elite to manage them. He is an elite individual in the world of football, both
maybe
at player and manager level.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to factor in the circumstances of where he's managed. Real Madrid, I mean, he was given an opportunity at Real Madrid primarily because of his history, and he did well because he had great players to do well with.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact level of success that he had with Madrid in terms of his win ratio and how he compared to previous Real Madrid managers and so on and so forth. But I don't think he didn't carry himself with a level of distinction.
Sure.
And so with that,
oversaw the Galacticos, didn't he?
Yeah, which you can look at. Well, did he? I mean, he wasn't. I mean, the Galacticos started in 2004, didn't it? With Beckham, really, wasn't it? Wasn't that the beginning of the Galacticos? And he wasn't there then, was he? So he was over. He was in a period where that overlapped.
Yeah,
let's say that.
Yeah.
And he won Champions Leagues, didn't he?
Sure.
And he won La Ligas. So he did what most Real Madrid managers do. And now whether that qualifies him as the French manager, well, seemingly they think it does.
We'll stick with France for the moment because, interestingly, the Ligue de Football Professionnel, they oversee the league game over there, the French FA, in other words, have received another request from PSG to postpone their clash against Lens to help them to prepare better for their Champions League quarter-final tie against Liverpool. Now, you might remember they did this. They had their game against Nantes postponed before the match against Chelsea. So it seems to work for them.
Yeah.
They do it there, but here we don't do it.
Yeah.
And interestingly, after Liverpool saw off Galatasaray, Arne Slot said, we would like to perform every single time at this level, but unfortunately we only get 2 days rest to go to Brighton.
Yeah, that's right.
Early kickoff.
Yeah.
For me, that's not realistic. That's what he said before the game against Brighton. They go to Brighton and lose, and this was Slot post-match.
Brighton did what we expected. If you face a team that has only had 62 hours of rest, and the first thing you do is make it an intense game, play the first duels, play tough duels.
So in other words, should our authorities here be doing what the French do?
Yeah, go get the same broadcast deals as the French has got them. Go get the same broadcast deals they've got. Go and get the same finances. PSG are an exception because they've got Nasser Al-Khelaifi and Qatari state money behind them.
Influence.
Well, no, it's not just that. It's the finances. Otherwise, they play less games for a start because their leagues are smaller. B, they have less value in their cup competitions than we do. And C, they're broadcast deals that you can probably write down the sheer content on the back of a fag packet in terms of their worth. So the broadcasters are the ones that are dictating the reasons why Liverpool are playing at 12:30 on Saturday is because a broadcast slot has been filled and one of the big 6 clubs who get all the benefit has been asked to fill that slot.
Yeah.
So you get into the Champions League games, you have to play them in certain times and you play in the 12:30 slots because you're sought after by the broadcasters who in a part allow you to go and spend £150 million on the centre forward. It's the nature of the beast. If you want less for English football and you want to compare it, you're taking the high point of what the French seem to be able to achieve, which is a great value of their clubs and their individual players.
Yeah.
But if the broadcasters were involved and they had a broadcast deal that was worth anything, because they have a broadcast deal which is worth nothing, they have no financial stability in their broadcast deals whatsoever. Canal Plus have turned off any interest in football. If there was a broadcast deal that said, sorry, we've got these slots booked for, we paid you £4 billion a year for your broadcast rights, you will be playing in these games. Let's see how many times the French team's got dispensation.
Right. So money talks.
Doesn't it always?
Yeah.
Doesn't it always? The reasons why PSG are an exception to that scenario is because they're bankrolled by a very different mentality, and now they've created a fashion brand which actually eclipses the value of their own football club. But with real respect to the reasons why that Liverpool were being asked to play this game is because of broadcasters. And the nonsense that Slot trots out, which we knew was coming, because he loaded everybody with it and told everybody that by Saturday we'll be exhausted. It's nonsense. It's nonsense.
He might not have said it, of course, what he said post-match.
So Brighton would have just... So if they sit off... Right, let me get this right. So if they sit off and bank up and don't come and attack you, you don't like that. If they come and press you and make it intense, you don't like that. So really what you should do is just not turn up, let Liverpool win the game and go home.
For the latest special offers, pick up this month's Real Deals in branch or view online at selcobw.com.
The Real Deal on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's Real Deals at selcobw.com.
Here's an interesting one. We're going to start with Arsenal and Bukayo Saka, right? Now, I have said for weeks, I love Bukayo Saka.
Me too.
Right? I do.
Me too.
However, I think the form has dipped a little bit.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe.
Did you hear what Pierce was saying? He is tired. Tired of what? He's been injured so many times. He had a proper preseason preparation, a vacation. So I don't know what happened. Is it because of the new players came into the team that has been challenging?
Is he missing Odegaard a little bit?
Well, I'll tell you what I think it is. I just think it's a drop in form, right? I think
it can happen.
It can happen. Yeah, I just think I don't know whether it's a confidence.
What would
thing.
You do, Ali? If you're
I'd have played Madueke.
Yeah, if you're manager, would you leave him out for a few games?
I maybe would
put your arm around him and say, "Look, you
super sub."
I maybe would, because I think you've got to pick the strongest team. We can argue about the goalkeeping position, but I think at this moment in time, now you two guys know far more about the Arsenal I'll ever know. I think Madueke deserves a starting position more than most in that particular position. I think, and I'll go even over to the other side, I think Madueke will give you more on that side than perhaps Trossard. I don't know about Martinelli's another one. I think he'd do a little bit more game time, certainly more than Saka. No?
I think another problem would be the skipper at the moment, isn't he? Odegaard's out. Can you leave your skipper out?
International break at the moment. Fingers crossed for Wales, fingers crossed for Northern Ireland, of course. But the promotion run-in awaits us all after this international break, with the often decisive Easter weekend calendar to come. For example, talkSPORT right across the lot on Good Friday. Middlesbrough against Millwall, talkSPORT exclusive. Coventry Derby, a talkSPORT exclusive. And a talkSPORT 2 exclusive, West Brom against Wrexham. Those all coming up on Good Friday. Wrexham, Simon. Wrexham. Is it possible that they could actually pull it off? Back-to-back promotions. They've gone up to the Championship. They're making a real go of it in the Championship. They're currently 7th right now. Outside the playoffs in goal difference, yes. Level with Southampton. But who's to say they don't push forward and get into the playoffs? I'm delighted to say that Wrexham player, a good pal of ours, Josh Windass, joins us live on the show. Josh, good morning.
Morning, guys. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Good to speak to you, mate. I've just outlined it. The playoffs, is that the aim, Josh?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, with the position we're in at the start of the season, I'd like to think that's where we would have been. And to be in the position we are with 8 games to go is obviously amazing. And we want to continue the form we're in, because I think in the last 30 or so games, so if we can continue that, we should be okay.
Was that the target when you set off life in the Championship this season? Let's attempt to get to the playoffs, or even better.
It was my target, to be honest. So hopefully it was everybody else's, which I assume it was. Obviously the owners are ambitious. I think they've made it clear before that they got laughed at when they said they wanted to take the club to the Premier League, and we hopefully can do it this year.
Fair enough, isn't it, Simon? McElhenney and Reynolds, we know, at the top of the house there. And that's where they want. They want to have life in the Premier League with Wrexham.
Yeah, I mean, originally, I don't think people laughed at the concept of it. I think people suggested that when it got hot in the kitchen and economics started to come into play, and you get in the Championship, you've got to write checks out for people like Josh Windass's wages, it becomes a different dynamic than what you do when you're in League Two. But now they've got people like Apollo involved. The valuation of Wrexham, if you see the commercial sponsors they've got because of the digital recognition that's attached to these actors that have now created huge commercial opportunities, it now becomes a real way of funding a football club. You've now got a club, unbelievably, that's been valued at about 400 or 500 million quid because of Apollo's investment in it. Yeah. You've also got a club that's been given an £18 million grant to build a new stadium, which I don't think is right. But the fact of the matter is, they're there and thereabouts, and I wouldn't put them past them. You know, they've got to deal with Southampton in the next couple of games, and that will give you a good yardstick. If they're able to displace Southampton on a great run of form and beat them in that game, then Wrexham will be in the box seat to get in the playoffs. And who knows, once you're in the playoffs, you're in the playoffs.
What is the feeling within the squad then, Josh?
I think that's the main thing I noticed when I signed here, to be honest. Even with the lads that had been here before, there is an incredible belief that they just go out and win games every single week. And yeah, it's been the belief of the team and me since I came in that we had good players and a good team, that we could finish as high up in this league as possible. And like I just said, we're in an unbelievable bit of form in the last 30 or so games. I think we're in the top 4 or 5 in the league. So hopefully we can carry on that for the last 8 games and see where it takes us.
I mean, Coventry lead the way, Josh, as you know. You guys actually beat Coventry earlier in the season, didn't you? But under Frank Lampard, they're going great guns.
Yeah, but I think that explains the Championship. We also have been beat off teams at the bottom, so you can never really count out anyone in this league. And as you said, Frank's doing an incredible job. They seem like they're almost there. So yeah, hopefully we can join them.
What's it like playing for this club, Josh? You played at Sheffield Wednesday. And you and I have exchanged text messages about Sheffield Wednesday and the size and scale of that football club. You've played up in Scotland at a big football club in Rangers. You're now playing at Wrexham, which is a club which was being reawoken and energised into something more significant. What's it like playing there?
Yeah, it's obviously a very different experience to what I've had before in terms of the ownership and all the kind of tourists that kind of come over to training and like say hello to you and stuff like that. But as you said, it's a completely different experience. The Championship is an incredible league, and yeah, the club's growing and growing and growing. Obviously, we don't have the expectation and stuff that sort of Rangers and the Sheffield Wednesday supporters have. It's more like a feel-good club, and that's doing great for us in this running. I don't think the fans get too kind of angry when you draw or you get beat like at these other clubs. So yeah, it's a really nice place to play, and I'm really enjoying it.
Did you get a sense? I saw Egbali on the pitch talking to various people after you got beat by Chelsea in the FA Cup. Do you get and the owners, the 2 American guys were there. Do you get a sense that now there's a real motivation beyond just owning a football club that's that's doing well now and building up and defying the conventional wisdom, that the Premier League is something they really want now. They can smell it. They've just had Chelsea come down, all the noise with Chelsea and the value of that particular football club. Do you get the sense from those that run the football club alongside your manager, this is rarefied air, we want some more of that?
Yeah, I feel like behind the scenes and sort of the front of them, I feel like they've got a real drive to be serious contenders in this division. Obviously, their actors and their job and stuff and the way they come across is all like funny and very light-hearted, but I think deep down they're very serious about it, and they fully believe that we can do the unthinkable.
Josh, have you got mixed feelings when you look at the Championship table? And of course we know your pathway to Wrexham. You're at Rangers, then Sheffield Wednesday. And Sheffield Wednesday rooted at the foot because of all their financial problems. They've won 1 in 39, minus 6 points. Your heart must go out to that club and its fans.
Yeah, it's an incredible story, and to lose that many games in a season is kind of unheard of. Obviously, they've got players that are really not at this level because of the situation that they've been in. I know the manager really well. Obviously, he was Danny Roll's assistant last year, who's a very talented coach, and yeah, his back's against the wall really. So it's kind of disappointing to see what's happened to them. They seem to be obviously losing games every single week, which must be difficult for the supporters. But hopefully next season, I don't know if the 15-point deduction things, I don't know. I've read something about that. I don't know if that's true, but hopefully they can come into League One next year and really have a go of it.
What was it like at Sheffield Wednesday? I mean, the outside looking in, I'm not asking you to be overly critical because I know you want to be a little bit diplomatic, but the Chansiri ownership, I looked at buying them with various people. You know that I don't particularly admire Chansiri, but you as a player playing in that environment, you get promoted from League One, all of a sudden the manager falls out with the owner. It seems to be endless chaos. What was it like at that club? Because I've always thought it's a big club that was waiting to happen again, and someone got behind it with some big dough because it needs big dough, could push it forward again. But what was that environment like playing in, Josh?
Yeah, we thought the same when we came up through League One and we had all the momentum. We thought that we was going to carry on with Darren and have a real crack at the Championship. And then, like you just said, it wasn't to be. Whatever happened between them two happened. He got sacked out of nowhere, really. And then we did really well under Danny. And then the last few months, we started not getting paid on time when we was like getting towards the playoffs. And it was kind of just always like that. The time I was there was always difficult moments. And yeah, obviously when I left in the summer, I had to sign an NDA, so I can't really say too much.
Okay, fair enough.
But yeah, it was always difficult there because some months he wouldn't pay on time. And yeah, it was always, I don't think he really cared either, to be honest, about not paying us.
What Rangers got in Danny Roll then, Josh? You'll be hoping they go up. They're in between Hearts and Celtic at the moment.
Yeah, I think I called you guys when he first got the job of how talented I think he is. He's got a ruthless streak to him, and obviously going up there, you need it with the ferocity of the fans and how ruthless it can be when you draw or lose a game. But I think since he took over, he came in when they were really struggling, and now they're obviously well in this title race. So yeah, I really hope he can do it. It's going to be difficult because Hearts are flying, and obviously Martin's done well since he went back into Celtic. So yeah, they've still got each other to play, and I hope he can do it.
I'm saying you'll be hoping they go up. Of course, you'll be hoping they win the Scottish Premiership. Of course, is what I meant to say. There's been I've heard little whispers you might go back there at one stage. Is there anything in that?
I don't know. You heard that off, Jim. Stop trying to cause trouble on here.
Josh, thank you very much indeed for joining. Good luck with Wrexham, and we'll watch closely as to see how it works out for you.
Top man, thanks, Jim. See you in a bit, Simon.
See you, mate.
Josh Windass with us live this lunch. He's a good lad, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a good lad. He's a good player as well.
Yeah.
And a decent lad. Speaks well, doesn't he? I mean, you would think that sort of player, he's made relatively good choices in his career. I think he's done the job that he's been asked to do in all the clubs that he's been at. And it'd be interesting to see where he takes himself. He strikes me as someone who's going to coach him.
Yeah. Okay, Josh, thanks for joining us. We're going to be speaking to Gus Poyet very shortly. Stay with us for that. It's 11 o'clock. just into us here at talkSPORT. Harvey Barnes, we know, is in Thomas Tuchel's England squad. In the last few moments, also called up, Arsenal's Ben White has been called back into the England squad, and he is included in this squad by Thomas Tuchel. Ben White's last involvement with England, as we know, was back at the World Cup in 2022. And on that occasion, Martin, Simon, you'll recall, he left camp early after a reported fallout between him and whoever else. But Ben White gets his chance. Featured yesterday, of course, at Wembley, and he's been called up by Thomas Tuchel. Guys, what do you think of that?
Yeah, it was interesting when Harvey Barnes was almost going to commit to play for Scotland. I believe, Jim, you'll know more about that. Ben White fell out, I believe, with Steve Holland. Well-known argument that they had where I think he was being accused of not taking enough interest when he wasn't in the team. So, he's a good player. So I expect to see him when there's a problem. It's good to see that he's back involved again.
Yeah. Some people had the view at the time, Simon, if you turn your back on your country, that should be it for you.
I think I was in that camp. I think I was in the camp of we can't all be told what we want to hear. We have to sometimes accept people have different views, and you have to, when you're playing for your country, it's an honour, it's a privilege. It's one of those rare things. Martin can speak to it because he played for his country. And to walk away because something doesn't suit you, because you've had the confrontation or an altercation. I mean, obviously we don't know the length and breadth of it, but at the time I think my attitude towards it was, well, I think that should be you done.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van range, helping business owners to work better and live better. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines, just coming up to 3 minutes past 11, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good morning. We're told Spurs are still making up their minds on who's best fit to try and steer the club away from relegation. Harry Redknapp had thought Spurs could finish 5th or 6th this season.
But it's been another year of disaster. And people keep saying, well, I know they've got the injuries, but that squad on Sunday was good enough to have got a result.
Spurs are keen to give Igor Tudor space and time following the death of his father. Other options include ex-Monaco head coach Adi Hütter, former Spurs players Chris Hughton and Robbie Keane, although Keane wants a longer-term deal, and we're told Roberto De Zerbi is waiting in the wings to see if Spurs stay up.
Whoever they bring in at the end of the day, it's down to the players. They've got to stand up and start performing.
Now, one man who never got the chance to represent his country has told us Ben White deserves his second chance. Kevin Nolan says White's versatility as a player makes him a good option.
What he's got to do now is go and show Thomas that he can be part of a squad and a team for the World Cup.
It's thought White fell out with coach Steve Holland before walking out on England in 2022. Meanwhile, the Tyne Weir aggro continues.
Now, Anthony Gordon is a fantastic player, but he didn't turn up in the first game and he didn't pretty much turn up in the second game apart from the goals. So it's a big statement.
Sunderland legend Kevin Phillips there after Anthony Gordon's comments about Sunderland not being very good despite Newcastle's second derby defeat of the season. And former England coach Paul Farbrace thinks sticking with Brendan McCullum is the right call.
I actually admire Rob Key and the ECB for standing up and actually standing their ground. They genuinely believe they've got the right people.
The ECB are trying to tighten up what they felt was a loose culture around the England Test team following a disastrous Ashes. More on this on the talkSPORT podcast Cricket Collective.
talkSPORT News.
Vets' prescription fees are going to be capped, and a compensation plan for drivers who have missold car finance will be announced on Monday. More from the news team at past.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. With over 600 centres across the UK, most of which open 7 days a week, we're always there when you need us. QuickFit. Drive away happy every time.
Mostly dry, cloudy across the south. Elsewhere, band of rain moving southeastward. Windy right across the country. Gales in the north, where it's turning colder this afternoon.
Good morning, everybody. It is 5 minutes past 11 o'clock. It's Jim White and Simon Jordan on this Tuesday morning, Tuesday, March the 24th. We are flying through the month of March, are we not? And of course, it's an international break, and we look forward to seeing what happens, especially with the Welsh still trying to get to the US of A in the summer, with Northern Ireland still trying to get to the US of A in the summer. England and Scotland are already there. But for England, what have they got? They've got two friendlies against Japan, and first off, it's against Uruguay, both live on talkSPORT. And I'm delighted to say this morning, Simon, we are joined right here in studio by former Chelsea, Spurs and Uruguay midfielder, you guessed it, Gus Poyet is with us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you, Gus. You just back from Montevideo, did I hear you say?
I was there, yes, end of December, beginning of January. Perfect weather. So, nice to see my mom, my family. Very nice.
How is everybody?
Everybody good. I was a grandfather last year, so I'm a old man now.
Yes.
I don't know in English, but in Spanish, if you put abuelo, that's it. You are old. That's it.
You're now officially old.
Old.
What are you? You're late 50s, but 58.
58. Yeah.
Oh, gosh, that's nothing. That's nice. I have been to Uruguay. Many years ago, I was in Montevideo, interviewed the Nacional coach at the time, Gerardo Peluso. Do you remember him? Have you met him?
Yes, I met him, yeah.
Peluso, yeah.
Interesting guy.
It was all about Luis Suarez. And of course, Suarez, at that time was at Liverpool and doing great things then. But Uruguay at Wembley this Friday night, what are England facing in Marcelo Bielsa's Uruguay these days? What kind of team are they?
Well, they're a team that they started very, very well under Marcelo Bielsa. The style of Marcelo Bielsa, the man-to-man all over the park, very direct. And then there's been a few issues, we can call it, inside the camp.
The
Copa America.
camp?
No, the Copa America. It was a big issue between the players and the coach. In the beginning, there were all rumors. And then Luis Suarez retired from the national team, and he spoke to confirm those rumors from out of the national team.
So what was Suarez saying?
Well, he said the relationship between the players and the coach, it was not great. There were too many issues. There were not the same kind of camaraderie that in Uruguay we normally have when we are together in a tournament like a Copa America. And that created a little bit of, unsettlement.
Yeah.
It was difficult. The end of last year, it was very difficult. And then Marcelo, being Marcelo Bielsa, addresses the press in a massive conference in his own to answer all the questions honestly. And 1 hour and 45 minutes of, answering about the problems. After that conference, for 2 weeks, it was an absolutely nightmare. But the good thing, it was November. And the next game was March,
right?
Which is this Friday,
right?
So now things they are calm, and everyone is waiting to see which team we're gonna see on Friday.
So did Suarez kick off about the relationship with Bielsa?
Well,
because Cavani retired at the same time, am I right?
Yeah, Cavani retired just before because it was no call, it was no contact, it was nothing.
But Suarez was different.
Suarez was different. He went to the Copa America, play a little bit, and then from America. He went out and say everything. You know what is funny? It was a big discussion about it was the right time or no. And I always say, well, the right time is about the one he made the decision to speak.
Yeah.
We cannot decide and tell Luis, don't do it now, do it in October. Or no, wait until November. He decided to speak and he said it. And that created a big issue in Uruguay. We had 3 or 4 months in Uruguay with the national team that was very, very difficult.
Controversy always seems to follow Bielsa about, Simon, doesn't it? It was a much talked about character when he was here with Leeds.
Yeah. Well, he's a very strong character, isn't he? In lots of different ways, from the brand of football that he plays to the manner in which he represents himself. And that will court a reaction. I mean, I prefer strong characters. I prefer people that live and die by their own standards and are prepared to accept the consequences and the upsides of making decisions.
Yeah. So, I mean, judging by what you've just said there, Gus, are expectations in Uruguay for this upcoming World Cup fairly low at the moment? I mean, you've got the likes of Valverde at Real Madrid. He's flying at the moment. Darwin Nunez, I don't know how good or bad he is at the moment. But
he's not playing.
He's not playing.
Very unlucky. He made a decision to move to Saudi. And then they signed Benzema and they took it out of the squad for the local league. So he can play only the Asian Champions League, which is a problem. He's not playing at all.
Shit.
So now, but sometimes players, remember that we are quite crazy, no? The players, we are all different. Sometimes you are not playing in your team and you're desperate to go with the national team.
Yeah.
And you go and you give your best to show your club that you're good enough. So it will depend on how he trained himself during this month and a half that he's not been playing.
Yeah, must have terrible sympathy for a 26-year-old that went to a substandard league for a big bag of money. Got what he deserved, I suspect.
Yeah.
Big decision that was, and it's very personal. I sometimes it's difficult to say, to be in his position, where he's coming from, how he was feeling at Liverpool, right or wrong, playing or not playing, and making that decision to move to Saudi.
A massive. I mean, to go from about 26 years of age to go to the Saudi league, because you're going there for one reason.
Yes.
And that's okay, perhaps, if you're Ivan Toney and you're 30 years of age and you played at Brentford. If you're playing at Liverpool, and I know that Liverpool don't always pay the biggest money, that's why Lucas Diaz left. But the fact of the matter is you're still being paid very well and you're paying for one of the iconic clubs and you exchange that to playing Saudi, and this is the consequence.
Yeah, he's going to be wealthy, but he's fitted out the picture. As Simon says, he's 26, guys.
It's very personal.
Yeah.
I was super comfortable at Zaragoza, 7 years. Easy, the foreigner with most games at the club. And at 29, I decided to come to England.
Yeah.
And people was telling me in Spain, crazy? Where are you going to go? You have everything here. You have your life, your kids, your culture. But I had something inside that pushed me to come to England.
Right.
So it's very personal. I know this one is an easy money, no?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
simple, no? It wasn't about football or about anything else. But like I said, it's going to be interesting. People want to see in Uruguay a team. The result is a consequence. But we don't want to see fraction or doubts, like proper team. Now, that England is not going to play most of the best players, apparently. Thank you.
Against Uruguay on Friday.
Yes.
Right.
That's what they say. I don't know if it's true. I suppose it's true.
Uruguay, your country, Gus, in a group in the US with Saudi Arabia, Cape Verde and Spain.
We should qualify.
You should qualify, right?
If we don't, don't go back to Uruguay.
No.
Stay in America.
I would have thought they'd be pretty angry. Yeah. England under Tuchel. You suggested this week, I think, that England are more of a team now.
Yes.
What do you mean?
I mean that in the past we had these massive stars that they were all together, and we had those discussions, in my opinion, about can they play all together? Can you play Lampard and Gerrard? Can you this and that? The golden era, blah, blah, blah. And somehow nothing happened. No, the title, it doesn't arrive. I think most of the team now, I think players that maybe they are not that recognized. I'm talking about worldwide. I'm not talking about England. You go now to Uruguay and you ask a few of the players they're going to play, and maybe people doesn't know them as much as they knew Beckham as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's more as a team. And when you get the team to perform, it's very difficult for the position because normally you are more consistent.
I remember in the World Cup finals, Uruguay, thanks to Suarez, did a job on England. What can Uruguay do this time around?
Completely different team. You won't believe how different. In Uruguay, the normal Uruguay, until 2011, 12, I think, it was 7 players, the goalkeeper and 7, working very hard.
Yeah.
Give it to the guys up front, they will sort it out. Suarez, Cavani, Forlan, previously Francesco, Lee, Fonseca. And now we don't have that up front. And normally our strength is in midfield. The Valverde, the Bentancur, the Ugarte is not playing out. So we are more as a team that we lost the consistency at the back, but also we lost the main power up front. So it's like a new process.
Right. But there'll be decent opponents for England, I would have thought.
I hope so. I'm gonna be there, so I hope so. I want to be happy there.
It's live in talkSPORT on Friday. Of course, when you think of Gus, you think of his former clubs in England. Chelsea, Tottenham Hotspur. I wonder if he ever envisaged a day where Tottenham would be in a relegation battle. We'll get into that next. Hello, Barry. Good morning.
Okay?
Yeah. Go for it, Baz.
I just want to say, every Monday mid-morning, we have to listen to Martin going on and on and on. It just becomes too much, and it's making me want Man City to win because he's just moaning all the time.
Don't put it on me, fella. Don't put it on me, Barry. So all those times when we denied you winning those 3 Premier Leagues back in the day with Sir Ferguson, was that got something to do with it? Yeah, the fact that Man United players, the former players, have all got it against Arsenal. You Man United fans. If you could pick a team without me involved, don't involve me. Just say which is the team you despise the most in the Premier League. Come on, who is it?
We saw what a coward you were when
It's got that big now.
When you were managing.
It's got that big now that you even want your local rivals to win ahead of us. Well done to you. Well done. Look what happened to our local rivals.
To be honest, our main rivals.
Spurs. Start having your own things to go after as a football club. Don't just bash us. When was the day? When was the day Man United wanted to be champions? Will we see that again soon?
What's your results? Yeah, you will see that again, Mark.
Well, because you've got 1 game a week at the moment, haven't you? It's easy for you, isn't it?
Barry, the floor is yours. Finish your call off for me. On you go.
Hey, what's going?
It is Jim White and Simon Jordan. Gus Poyet is in our midst. Gus, of course, who played here in England, played for Chelsea, played for Tottenham, and is with us all the way through until what? About 11:45, I think, producer Luke. I'm looking and he's nodding. Gus, I hope you realise you're with us for another part after this one. But we're delighted about that. I noticed when you come in here as well, Gus, you're dressed, Mr. Jordan, as Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, a little bit old-fashioned, no? But I like it. I think that is respect. Yeah.
But respect there. And respect that you merit. You probably don't feel you get a lot of that in here.
No, none.
No, maybe not.
But I learned it in, also, it was natural on me, but I went to Korea, South Korea last year, and they really pushed me to accept my position as a coach, where the coach in Korea is high, level.
Yeah.
To a point that I had to learn how to go to certain places. Example, go to see the second team training. I arrived one day, my first day I went to see them. They were training already, and they stopped. Another players, they come in front of you, and they bow, and then they continue. So after that, I said, I cannot come in the middle of the training, because they're going to stop the training. I need to come in the beginning or at the end, And
so they're standing bowing?
Yes.
Right.
And that's, different, isn't it? It's completely new. You don't know until that happened. Or, many things, the parking.
Yeah.
Me, I'm from Uruguay. Normal,
Of course.
I needed to park in a certain place for a respect for a certain thing. And I try to say, but listen, they say, no, you must.
Wow.
Because so things
I don't mind you calling him Mr. Chairman, but no bowing, Gus.
No, bowing, no.
Be too much.
Listen, I had that problem. Yes, it's too much.
Gus, I want to talk about Chelsea and Lemur Senior in a minute, but I want to focus on Tottenham at the moment. You're in London. Yeah. All the talk is what the hell has happened, and are they going to drop down to the Championship? I mean, I don't know where to start with you. You arrived, and I remember it, you arrived as a player at Spurs in 2001, the beginning of the ENIC era, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel at the time you were joining an ambitious football club with real vision?
Well, Glenn Hoddle convinced me. It was very simple for me. I know that after that created a little bit of friction with the Chelsea fans, but the idea was that he came to my house, he put me everything in front, how we're going to play, where you're going to play, why at 33 years old I want you there. And I joined a team of men. Teddy Sheringham, Les Ferdinand, Tim Sherwood, Darren Anderton, Tarico, me. We were men. We went in the tunnel and we were looking at each other and said, we are men here.
Yeah.
But slowly, after that, the following year, and the last one, my last one, we lost that. And we started weakening, like, losing the characters. And my last year, it was personally quite poor because I didn't play a lot and the top of the team was not good enough. But I thought it was because the lack of characters. That was my...
Right. And then you look at Tottenham now, and you look at the players in that dressing room. Are they a team of men?
Difficult to say. It's a different men than character. Eh? You can be young and a strong character and to be a man and be just there. I think in the last few years, and I like to make an opinion, so I'm not going to change at my age now. I think it was too easy to be a Tottenham player.
What do you mean?
Best training ground, probably one of the best.
Yeah.
Best stadium, easy. Why your objective at Tottenham? Yearly.
That's a point. Is that a point, Simon?
Chairman, why is your objective?
Is that a point? They were in a comfort zone, a lot of them?
No, not really, because if you haven't got that, that'll be the reasons why you aren't achieving things. It's that, ultimately, does it factor into the recruitment of a team that you have a nice stadium and you have a nice training ground? Because it's expected now. If you're playing for an elite football club, very rarely do you have facilities. It's all well and good that Tim Sherwood trots out stories of walking across a field when Blackburn won the Premier League 30 years ago. But that was 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The expectation now of the modern day footballer is to have it all. Now, whether that then seeps into the selection process, that comes down to sporting directors and managers and not identifying the right culture of players. But is it easy at Tottenham? There's something wrong. There's clearly something wrong. There's something wrong under Daniel to some extent, and it's been exacerbated in Daniel's departure, so it's got even worse. Because that playing squad, and you'll know more about it than I do, is not a top 6 playing squad, but it is not a bottom 4 playing squad. That's a mid-table to upper echelons of the Premier League playing squad on paper. So something culturally is wrong inside that football club that enables people like Conte to have their views on it, Mourinho to have his views on it, but for it to be levelling now at the achievement level it is at, something's wrong. And I don't know what it is, and it'd be fascinating to know what it is, because it can't just be the owner. It has to be what seeps into the players, what the players... Because I think these players are cheating. I think some of those players out there are cheating the football club.
Cheating? You called Romero a cheat the other day.
Well, first, any manager who will go to Tottenham, the first meeting you have with a player with Romero, you need to sit down and look at him. And
Yeah. There was a fellow South American.
I like to talk, but I think that's a meeting that you would like him to talk.
If you were having a meet with him now, Gus, he's Argentinian, you're Uruguayan, what would you say to him?
Well, it's going to be easier because it's going to be in Spanish. So he can really explain himself. But I would say, come on, tell me the truth. Speak. Don't give me excuses.
Yeah.
True. You're a World Cup champion.
Yeah.
Speak. And then listening to him, I don't know what he's going to say. Then you can understand his personality as well and why he's needed.
As I say, Simon called him a cheat. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that too strong? Or do you go in the same direction?
He's strong, without any doubt. I think sometimes when you are a captain and when you are a South American and you try to be strong, sometimes you make wrong decisions very much. You try to show too much that you are strong, and that takes you to the wrong side of the game.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes those players, they need someone next who can guide them.
Yeah.
I call sometimes the squad, there are 25 kids, even if they are 30 years old, that you need to deal with. And they are all different, and they all need different respect, all the same. But treatment, completely different.
Have this lot got the strength of character needed, Gus, to stay in the Premier League?
They're in danger. I saw something in the derby that I didn't like, second half. And this weekend, the second half was as well, a little bit scary.
What did you see?
Well, it's like there is no way, because here is, like Simon said, you need to find the reason and sort it out now. Well, we said in Spanish yesterday.
Yeah.
You don't have time now. You don't have time. And in the next game, I think it's Sunderland away. All the best to go up there. And you need to go there with something very clear. I think we lost the basics in football. Me as a coach, the basic things, the normal basic things that you do when defending, when, passing the ball with the angles, basic things. And also we lost a little bit the players in the best positions. Because we have one of the greatest managers ever on Guardiola, that he changed football forever. Also complicate things for certain coaches. That they start thinking too much, where I can play him, I can play him.
Yeah.
Can I put him in the middle? And sometimes you see situations where they are difficult. Now, this is not criticism to the coaches. It's a way of me understanding football. So I accept all the opinions and I understand what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Because it's two crises. And this is something I want you to say to Simon. It's the club and the personal coach crisis. The one that you're taking home. The one that you go home and you don't stop thinking about the team and how you're going to sort out tomorrow, okay? And that we deal with it.
Yeah.
Some people ask for help. Some people take it. And when you take it, like I took it in Sunderland, you lose 5 years of your life. I told you last time when I came back in.
I remember that. I remember that. But, I mean, at the moment, if Igor Tudor, with all due respect to him, and you know about his father, and the sad news there, so he's back home at the moment, is it time for a club legend to be brought in? I mean, we mentioned Tim Sherwood earlier on, and I think he's on record as saying he would like it. I'm sure he would.
Yes.
But is that what's needed? Do you bring back Harry Redknapp and Kevin Bond? What do you do?
First, I wouldn't like any coach to get sacked, because it's the worst moment of your career. When you get sacked and when you don't expect it, it's terrible. Sometimes it happens. But I thought before. I think now it's a different decision. I think before Tudor, for me, was a little bit more clear about which kind of character, which kind of coach. And now it's a big call. Because remember, beginning of the season, someone who knows the league very well, Thomas Frank. Middle of the season, somebody who doesn't know the league. He never played, never trained. So what is next? You're going to find one in the middle?
Yeah.
So the decisions. We made decisions as a coach, and good decisions, you're a good coach. Bad decision, you're out. It's the same for the board. And I pass it to Simon now. It's the same for the board. They need to make the right decision.
What do they do? What should they do? What can you second guess? It's impossible to second guess the Tottenham hierarchy at the moment.
Well, I think, without being too judgmental, I think the football intellect that's making these decisions isn't good enough. I think despite what you think of Daniel, and lots of people have different views of him, people think I defend Daniel because he's my friend. I defend him against what I think are unfair observations, not against everything. The football thought processes that are being deployed, I don't think are strong. I don't think the football knowledge is great. And I think they're making decisions based upon, right, we saw Thomas Frank, we didn't appoint him, he wasn't ours, but ultimately we accepted him, but we let him be isolated. We took out the sporting director because he wanted to leave as well, and he wasn't strong enough. So we're going to go for strong character now because these players need to liven up. And they've got a strong character in, and the response has been nothing. So where do you go? The fans are there. The fans are there. The big thing about bringing Harry Redknapp in was, Harry will bring the fans back. The fans are there. The fans are desperate. The fans did everything they could to pull the stops out of them against Nottingham Forest.
Right.
In the end of the day, I think, without wanting to dismiss the role of a head coach, in this particular instance, with this quality of playing squad that clearly are underperforming, the players are going to make the decision about how they play. The players are going to make the decision about whether they're going to stay in this league or not. And you might get someone on that can shepherd them along and be good for the optics of the media. But when it comes down to it, this group of players have put themselves in fourth and bottom in the league.
Yeah.
They put themselves 17th in the league last year and won a European competition against a dreadful Manchester United. And the players, to my mind, will be the ones that ultimately sort themselves out or don't.
Gus, we're going to take a short break. It's a bit unfair of me, but I'm going to do it anyway. Can you give me in a word, did Tottenham Hotspur get relegated, yes or no?
A 50-50 chance. I promise. I'm worried. For what I see, you know, you have a feeling when you are in the stadium.
Yeah.
And when I'm talking to my friends, the Spurs fans, I never seen that before. I never see it last year.
Yeah.
When they were great on Thursday.
Yeah.
Winning the European competition.
Yeah.
And not that good on Sundays.
Okay. I see where you're going with it. So much for Tottenham. We've still to talk about Chelsea, and we'll do that next.
If you cast your mind back to the Antonio Conte days, you may remember one press conference in particular, which has gone down in Spurs history. Last week marked 3 years since this iconic rant. Let's have a listen again.
They don't want to play under pressure. They don't want to play under stress. Yeah, it's easy in this way. And Tottenham story is this. 20 years that there is the owner and never won something. But why? Only for the fault is only for the club or for every manager that stay here. And I have seen the manager that Tottenham had on the bench. You risk to disrupt the figure of the manager and to protect the other situation in every moment. And now, until now, I try to hide the situation, but now no, because I repeat, I don't want to see what I have seen today, because this is unacceptable. Also for the respect for the fans. They follow us, pay the tickets, and to see the team another time, to have this type of performance, for me, I repeat, this is unacceptable.
Wow.
Hey.
He lost the plot there, didn't he? I didn't know press. They were loving it, weren't they, the press?
Going high.
Do you know that was after, Ali? I've been told that was after the 3-3 draw at Southampton. And if they'd won that game, they would have gone into third place.
Joking.
Third place. So that's amazing, isn't it? 3 years ago.
That was 3 years ago.
talkSPORT's Steve Harmison says Brendan Baz McCullum only deserves 6 months' worth of rope as England head coach. The ECB's Richard Gould decided to stick with managing director Rob Key as well, despite that disastrous Ashes winter. Our talkSPORT cricket editor John Norman says the elephant in the room is Baz.
We still haven't heard from him, and the big question is he going to change?
Yeah.
And that was a question that was continually asked of Rob and Richard, and I didn't really feel like I got an answer.
Now, as Spurs weigh up a managerial change during this international break, former Monaco head coach Adi Huta's rumoured to be in the frame. talkSPORT's European football expert Andy Brassel wonders why.
I can't see what particular element of him would recommend him to this situation at Spurs and why he would want to damage his reputation to doing this.
Now, we understand Bosnia midfielder Benjamin Tahirovic has called Steve Cooper to apologise for getting him in trouble. Cooper is the players' manager at Brondby. The Bosnia head coach had accused Welshman Cooper of deliberately dropping Tahirovic ahead of their playoff against Wales, but it looks like Tahirovic was the source of this fake news. Meanwhile, Republic of Ireland assistant John O'Shea says there's a great vibe in the Ireland camp.
It's that cup final scenario. Everyone's wanting to get in the team, the intensity, the noise and the atmosphere around the boys is brilliant.
They play Czechia in a World Cup playoff tomorrow. There's plenty more at talksport.com.
Just gone 11:30 this Tuesday morning. Jim White, Simon Jordan, Gus Poyet in studio with us. Many Tottenham Hotspur fans echoing what you have been saying, Gus, that they are thoroughly concerned, and echoing what Simon has been saying regards Tottenham at the moment. Maybe it's the players who are deciding on the field of play. Something's got to change, and time is running out. And just to reaffirm, you think it's about 50-50 as to whether or not, and you've got to be diplomatic, I know that.
No,
whether or not
it's
they're going to stay up.
It's the truth. I promise you. If I say, I think they are in danger. I think they are. I didn't like what I see on the pitch. You know, like I said, sometimes when I was a player, I respect the coach instructions and then I play. And now as a coach, I try to give the instructions, but they play.
Right.
I'm still believing the same. I didn't change my mind. I don't think now you need to do what I told you if no, you're not playing, because they need to make decisions on the pitch, because I'm not there. Okay, you know the typical that when the coach call you and he say, Gus, and you look at him and say, yeah, right, I'm playing. That was my character. And that's what Simon meant saying, play, sort it out.
Yeah. Listen, if they made an approach to you, may as well ask you. With all due respect to Igor Tudor, could you do a job from now until the end of the season?
I already done it in Sunderland. I was in that position. But sorry, I was in a worse position. I was 7 points adrift.
And you stayed up?
Somehow, the miracle. Don't ask me how, but we stay up. You know, that's what I was saying about the objective. Yeah. There is objective. That was the objective.
Do you feel you could do it? Of course you'll say yes, Gus, but you feel you could do it?
Well, from outside, yes. Then from inside is when you find... If you find that problem inside, then definitely. Now, you need to know that. It's very easy for everybody to talk outside. Yeah, I know what to do if I go in. Do you remember when Harry Redknapp, after Juan de Ramos, we left, he put the ketchup back on the table. Are you going to win or lose because of a ketchup? Come on, stop it.
Yeah.
Now, that the players, they need something. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think it's simple. As simple as possible, play the players in the best position and play. Play.
Your old club, Chelsea, 19 games into the Liam Rosenior.
You went to get me in trouble, no?
No, may as well go through it, Gus.
Yeah,
what have we learnt in the time that Liam Rosenior's been in charge? 19 matches, 10 wins, 7 losses, 2 draws. Before you answer that, let's hear from Liam Rosenior himself. Have a listen, Gus.
We're a point away from the Champions League. So I'm learning about this club. It's a massive club. There's been a lot of noise, a lot of negative noise about, rightfully so, our performances in the last week. We've had 10 games in the league together as a group. We've got 17 points. I think we're 4th in my time. So we have to forget the noise. We have to keep our confidence and our composure. And the international break probably has come at a good time for us to restock, re-energise ourselves and go again for a really important run-in.
I mean, Gus, it's 4 defeats on the bounce now. When you take a step back and you look, what are you seeing at Chelsea?
Well, I think it's completely different to what was Chelsea a few years back. I think a few years back, even the coach knew if you don't win the league or if you don't win a big trophy, you're out.
Simple as.
Abramovich, simple. I mean, Mourinho won a couple. The year they didn't win it, man, Ancelotti, similar. Conte, similar. Mourinho go back, similar. It was quite clear. Now it's a little bit different because the top is doing different things, in a different way. What I don't like, coach point of view, is when there is too many rumors about the coach. For example, Maresca, no? It was that big rumor, I don't know if it's true or not, about the change in the players at a certain time that he's been told.
Because he was the one that was leaking it to his mates in the press.
Okay. Now, what that helped to the new coach? And I'd say to you, Dom, you make a change after 60 minutes and people is going to say that you change it because you've been told to change it. You don't have a chance to win it. You are not making the decision because it's been out already. So for Liam, it's been a situation which is impossible to win. Whatever he does, is going to be people talking because of the rumors of Maresca. So you are already in the beginning in a position which is difficult. And then, the ones that we like to speak, because Liam likes to speak a lot, then people start taking everything you say against you, especially if you don't win. If it was
analyze
it to the last bit.
Yeah.
So I think it's a job that he needed to. You must take it. He cannot say no, Liam Rossignol to Chelsea. But it was coming in a situation which for him it would be tricky.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah,
and
Simon, I'm not saying anything you haven't said on air before. You met socially with Behdad Eghbali, and you were thoroughly impressed by him.
I think there's a lot more to be impressed by him than there isn't. I mean, I know that the Chelsea fan base are not having Eghbali, they're not having Todd Bowley, they're not having their positions and not understanding their way forward, and subsequently think that because I was impressed with the things he said to me, that somehow I'm being bought and paid for by Eghbali. I can assure you that's not the case. The interesting thing for Liam Rossignol is that Liam Rossignol couldn't have turned this job down anyway, because even if he was sensible, he worked for Strasbourg, which were owned by Chelsea. So if he turns down Chelsea or the Blue co-ownership in Strasbourg, he's done there as well.
Well, on that, Chelsea and Strasbourg, curiously, we now hear the fans of the two clubs, Gus, are planning to march together in London next month to protest against the owners of their clubs.
How is possible that? How you can be the one who lost the coach with the one who got the coach?
You're laughing, but you said recently on Chelsea, where it would be good would be if somebody at the top of the club could clarify publicly where the aim is, what the direction is.
I think we are in a good position now because you got a chairman here and a coach here. Okay? Here.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need that. And sometimes I know it's difficult for them to send that message clear. I understand their point, but we would like them to understand our point.
Right. So what do you believe to be the aim of the club?
Just say, when you are clear, your objective, what you're going to do.
You want to hear from Bowley and Eghbali say that?
Well, from someone at the top, not from the coach. So the coach is now we have clearly out that to the fans. Tell the chairman to do it. They do?
Yeah.
They do it?
Well, then the wonderful thing would then be said that you put me under pressure. So the ownership goes out and goes, we're building a team to win the Premier League and we expect to win the Premier League in the next 2 years. These guys would scream like stuck pigs.
Me, no, I take it. Give it to me, I take it.
But that's clearly their objective.
Yeah, I love that.
No, that's clearly. I mean, Chelsea wouldn't have spent the kind. And again, I was listening to something the other day about their narrative of buying. They're not buying young players and trading them. They're buying young players to build a team. There's been a few young players that have been sold by Chelsea because they don't think. I mean, 2 years ago it was Conor Gallagher's gone. We're going to fall apart. Well, not like rubbish. It's just because you don't like the ownership. The ownership clearly are trying to build something. Now the question is, are they doing it the right way? Is the young players that they're bringing in and the lack of balance that seems to be in the side about experienced players? Now you go, well, there are experienced players in there. Cucurella isn't a kid. Fernandes isn't a kid.
Yeah,
Reece James isn't a kid. They have got experienced players in that particular squad, but maybe they aren't the same sort of experienced players that once upon a time sat in that dressing room that everyone harks back to, which is John Terry or Makelele or whoever else they thought were strong characters that were in that team that catapulted Chelsea into being a top side. So whatever this ownership does now, it is absurd that two sets of supporters are going to get together to talk about the ownership. Now, if I'm not wrong, 4 years ago, this football club was about to go into extinction. And you've got owners that are spending hundreds of millions of pounds on it, not getting it right. And you are singing, and there are sections of the Chelsea fan base that are singing for Roman Abramovich, who has now, by his actions, dragged Chelsea into the public discourse as being cheats. And have cheated to win the Premier League. Oh, wonderful. What a way of thinking.
The Chelsea-Strasbourg protest, Gus, is embarrassing for Bowley and Eghbali, but maybe not if they were to come out and say, look, this is the road we're on and this is how we're going to do it.
I think to be a fan is very simple. You know, you want to win the league all the time and ask for to win the league, and as soon as you don't win it, you have to blame someone, and the first one you should blame is the coach.
Yeah.
And when you blame 2 or 3 coaches, then they go for the board.
Sure.
That's the simple thing in football. Now, I agree certain things with Simon, and I think it's important about Chelsea to clarify those things. And I think the team is not bad. Now, I had a image of Chelsea players when they were winning the Premier League. That is different now.
Right.
The Drogbas, the Lambert, you said
That's changed now.
That changed now.
Yeah, of course.
So you need to accept that. For a group of fans to accept that, if it's a message directly, maybe, but as soon as they don't win, they're gonna be.
But isn't it evident? I mean, I'm not wanting to hog the airtime that Gus is in the studio for, but isn't it evident that if you spend this kind of money, you want to win something. It's not about the fact that what you need to clarify. They came out after winning the World Club Championship, so this will be the first of many. Right, which is what Todd Bowley said. This is what we're here for. Right. Yeah. So, what is it you need to hear? Right. You've been told by the very nature of what they're spending. Now, the question should be: is can they do it the way that they're doing it with their buying policy? Yeah. And the answer probably to that is they've got to buy different players or put them. And the Liam Rosenior appointment is a very different blueprint than ever seen before.
I think basically at the moment, many Chelsea fans just don't have faith in the model.
The point.
That is the point. Gus, you're managing Greece, Spain, China, France. Where are you going to? You want to come back here, don't you?
I'm trying. No chance at the moment. No chance. Not even meetings, which is because I always say have a meeting,
and then we'll see.
Then it's up to me.
Yeah, exactly.
To convince
if Spurs approach you, and say Igor's not coming back,
I can't say no, and I have to trust my ability. I got no doubt. But listen, I like when the clubs, they support the coach. I like it. What Simon said about in 2 years' time, we're going to win the league with these players. Yeah. Okay, pick the coach, go with the coach.
Yeah.
Don't blame him.
You said Simon there. That was a bit familiar. Did you not?
Yeah, because he didn't. He told me off record. He told me he doesn't like to be called the chairman. I think he does.
He does. Of course he does.
He does. But he told me, no, the ball. Yes, true.
Gus Poyet, brilliant to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I overran there. Apologies for that. We're live in talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes. One of the big talking points was, have you heard about the result from the Northeast? Sunderland go to St James's Park and won, and they did. Sunderland completed the domestic double over their rivals thanks to a late 2-1 win at Newcastle, and it sees Sunderland leapfrog Newcastle in the league, 1 point clear in 11th. It's hard to imagine it, Martin, but in their debut Premier League return, are they now firmly out of Newcastle's shadow?
Well, I mean, okay, Eddie was saying about the number of games that they've had to play and the calibre of player they're up against. The squad maybe is not equipped well enough, perhaps, to with all the resources they've got financially. They haven't been able to capitalise on that, have they, because of the financial fair play. So, but in the meantime, Sunderland have caught up with them. I mean, Jacques is a really important player, by the way. When he was out for a while, Sunderland suddenly started looking like a championship team.
Yeah.
But now that he's back in the team, Brobby up top. Too much to handle. Couldn't deal with him, Jim. And it's all these games, successive games. But it was a big game in the minds of these Newcastle players. They put it there as one that they could go and win it. And it's tricky now for Eddie between now and the end of the season, Jim, to try and fix this problem.
Well, it is. Simon, a difficult week for him.
Yeah.
7-2 capitulation in Barcelona. Yeah. Then they lose at home to their closest of rivals.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. We're ready for the action. Are you? Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus. Gambleaware.org.
And he's not coming to us remotely today. He's here in person. Matt Gibson from BetMGM, right in this very studio. To what do we owe the pleasure?
Well, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It's been a while.
It's been a while. And obviously, you came to Cheltenham, but I've not seen Mr. Jordan in the flesh for a good number of months, so I thought I'd come down and see you all today.
And look at the reaction you get from that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Complete indifference.
Yeah.
He's here to see you.
Oh, yes, I imagine that's the main motivation, yes.
Yeah. Matt, lovely to see you. You. As a Leeds fan, you're a big fan of Gus Poyet, aren't you?
We liked him. We were just saying on the way out there, he did a stellar job with us. Simon obviously reminded me we were in League One, doesn't mean much. You were -15 and all that, but yeah, we like him up there. He's always welcome back.
Yeah, why not? You know the thing about it, I digress for a second, Simon. Could he keep Tottenham up? Yeah, I'd back myself. I did it with Sunderland. I could do it with them. You've got to love. You love that.
What would you expect him to say? No, I'm useless. There'd be no chance.
Well, he could say, I tell you what, it's a struggle. And who knows?
It is a struggle.
He didn't say that.
Because of course it's
He
a
said he
struggle.
could.
It's a struggle to anybody. You could put Guardiola in, it'd be a bloody struggle. He knows it's a struggle.
Yeah, yeah. Number of ex-Spurs players. I don't know if you're running a book on that actually, Matt. But at the moment you're looking at the bottom half of the Premier League, and that's where we start. And Spurs are in it.
Yeah, very much so. Was at Ellen Road on Saturday night.
Call that was boring, wasn't it?
Playing outside, you shut your curtains, mate. Wasn't it?
Blimey.
Yeah, it was pretty poor. I hate the goalkeeper going down injured and all of that sketch. Just it was not a fun night.
That was the best part of the game, though.
The best part of the game with the final whistle.
Yeah.
In retrospect, not a bad point considering what happened later. But I'd have loved to have gone away from the ground Saturday night going, you know what, 3 points. We proper put the pressure on everyone below us. As it turned out, it's not a bad point. West Ham losing. They need Somerville back.
What truly is the feeling amongst your fellow Leeds fans? Are you still in the mire, or will you draw your way out of it?
I think, well, we're Leeds fans, so we know tragedy's only just round the corner. Bookmaking wise, we are the fourth favourites to go down, but they're only 4 points adrift. So that's 2 bad game weeks, Jim, and there's 7 game weeks left. So they are still very much in it. I think if they pick up 2 or 3 wins, or certainly 2 wins will get us to 39. So I think 39, all being well, should be enough. The team
Forest did themselves no harm.
No, Forest did themselves no harm. And looking at the running, like Leeds have got to play Wolves, Burnley, Spurs, West Ham, 2 of those at home. The team you don't want to be is, well, Gus Poyet might want to manage them, but your team you don't want to be Spurs. There's no momentum there. They've got Wolves away. They've got us coming to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which we know they're not overly great at.
Yeah.
They're the team going into this without the momentum, even though they've got a point cushion on West Ham.
So what are the odds on Tottenham to go down as we speak?
Tottenham's go down 8-5. West Ham are the only odds on team to be relegated. West Ham 41-50, Tottenham 8-5, Forest 11-2, Leeds a big price at 7-1.
Okay, what about the Championship?
Well, speaking of managers, we were talking actually downstairs. Frank's obviously done a great job at Coventry. Picked them up when they were really struggling, bottom 4 or 5, I think, when he picked them up. Playoffs last year, and now they're pretty much home and hosed. Had a wobble at Christmas. They seem to have overcome that. Won 7 out of the last 8. 1-40 to win the division. I think Middlesbrough are the cursed third team, lads, and I think it's got to be the same sketch with Middlesbrough as it was with us. They're going to play a Southampton team that is coming with a wet sail. Like, they are the form horse. If you look at the form table here, they've won 5 out of the last 6. I think Middlesbrough probably drop out. They've got to play Ipswich on April the 18th. I think Middlesbrough, it's probably got to slip away from them. And that third place team, fellas, I think is really cursed, particularly when you've got to play that 6th place team who come in with momentum. That's what you did with Palace, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Albeit we lost the last game of the season away to Coventry to go into the playoffs, irrespective of the momentum. But it often is the case. That is the history of the Championship playoffs, where the side that finishes third falls away. I remember in the second time we were in the playoffs, we were 4th all season and sailed into the playoffs, but no momentum. Last 6-7 games were already established in the playoffs. Stank the playoffs out and lost to Watford over 2 legs 3-0.
That's such a shame.
Millwall should get there.
Yeah.
As a London boy, said he supports London clubs last week.
Yeah,
but there are exceptions to that.
Yeah. If Millwall go up, I'll take you down to Bermondsey. South Bermondsey will have a nice meal down there somewhere. Hey, look, everyone, here's Simon Jordan.
Yes.
Are we expecting an overhaul of Premier League managers this summer? Then?
Do you know what? We were having a look earlier, and I think there's there's only a few. I'll say a few. There's a few that we've put a ring around that are probably going to stay. I think Arteta, Emery, Keith Andrews, Moisey, Hertzler, Labrie, Rob Edwards. I think they're the only ones that are properly nailed on to stay because they've done fantastic jobs. I think there's question marks over so many. Does Guardiola stay, or does he bow out with a trophy? Enzo Maresca's odds on to go there. Carrick, we don't know what the situation is there. Slot, Liverpool fans are a little bit upset. Racina, Chelsea fans are battling him. Silva and Iriola, could they leave and go to one of those bigger jobs? Like looking at the managerial stuff this season, gents, there's not a load of cabs on the rank because there's a World Cup summer. Ancelotti's not sat at home doing nothing, is he? He's got the Brazil side. So I think it could be really turbulent this summer, and particularly where people like Glasner and Tudor, who we probably know are going to leave, see where they end up. And again, like people like Scott Parker, if you're going to get relegated with Burnley, do they keep him? He's a great manager in the Championship. Do they stick by him? You don't know. Does Nuno stay? He did brilliant stuff with Wolves. Will West Ham want to keep him? Will he want to stay there? You don't know. I think there's loads to be done in the summer.
I agree with you, Matt. I think he's made a good point, is he not, Simon? While we're in the US at the World Cup, I think a lot of the headlines will be here as to who's going where.
Depends what
Bound
happens.
to be.
Depends what happens. I mean, if West Ham stay up, I think there's very little doubt that they'd want to stay with Espirito Santo. Palace is already seeded and done. You know, Glasner's leaving. Spurs is a conundrum. Yes, of course, there'll be movements and there'll be challenges and there'll be opportunities. It'll be interesting to see, you know, people like at the beginning of last year, you saw the Daniel Farkers of the world come under pressure at the beginning of the season. Yet he's found a new way of playing, and Leeds drawing their way to safety may well be their way through it.
What would you do? Up or down if you were the Leeds bosses? Up or down, what would you do with Farker?
I don't know. I think
does it change regardless of where they go?
I think it was very unfair, the headlines he was getting last year. And the reason being that was because of his history at Norwich and going up with Norwich, and people felt that, great, you got us there, but we need to stay there sort of mentality. And he was given no money at Norwich.
Yeah.
He hasn't been given huge amounts of money at Leeds either, has he? He found a way of paying, but I still think Leeds are in this relegation mix because I think you've played so well and been so difficult to play against. And these 10 draws that you've got out of the last 25 games, but it hasn't got you away. But the form that you've played in, the games that you've played in, the results that you've got, you should be up and away. But you're not. You're still in touching distance.
The away form's pretty horrible.
Yeah,
as much as you go on about.
But you've got the bottom three sides, haven't you? I mean, in the last 7 games, you've got the bottom 3 sides.
But Wolves isn't a tap-in anymore. Simon.
No, because they can play freely.
You came all the way down to be with us in studio to hear that at the end of your chat. You'll get out of it, Matt. Of course you will.
A big club.
Yeah,
so do I.
Tell them we'll get out of it.
No, I think they'll get stuck. I told you at the beginning of the week, I felt that it's because Leeds haven't got away as they should have done with the form that they've been in and the way that they've changed.
I think
it makes me feel they could get sucked in.
In the big games, and like we were talking again, when we played Farkers Norwich, we played Wilders Sheffield United, looking to go up under Bielsa in the big games.
Yeah.
For some reason, this club just can't do it. The playoff finals, they can't do it. So the Wolves at home, the Burnley at home, they're the big games where they're going to have 30,000 people cheering them on. Can they do it?
Come on, Matt. You can get out of it. Matt, good to see you. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18 plus. BeGambleAware.org. It's 12 noon.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18 plus. GambleAware.org.
It's the world's most vocal Arsenal fan, Piers Morgan. Good morning, Piers, or is it a good morning, my friend?
Good morning, Piers.
Can I just say that when your brilliant team, well, good morning first of all, Ali, and particularly, of course, to Ray and Emmanuel, 2 great heroes of mine. when I agreed to do this interview, obviously I did so in the overconfident expectation that I would be regaling your listeners, and indeed the three of you, with my joyous recounting of Arsenal's triumphant victory. So to say that when I woke up this morning and suddenly remembered what I had to do was one of the worst moments of my life is the understatement of the millennium. But anyway, good morning to you.
Listen, but we do appreciate at least it wasn't a no-show, Piers. It wasn't a no-show.
No, I didn't pull an Adam Brazil.
No, there was no slight strain in the hamstring from you this morning, to be fair. Where did it go wrong?
Well, we didn't turn up, did we? Yeah. And there is an issue here. I mean, look, I've been listening this morning. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that the difference between Arteta and Guardiola, I think, was laid bare a little bit yesterday with this decision about the goalkeeper. Because when Arteta came to Arsenal, he said the one thing he'd really learned from Pep was you've got to be ruthless if you want to win things. And the truth is, the ruthless decision would have been to have played Raya, who is right now arguably the best goalkeeper in the world in sensational form.
talkSPORT Sports Update, powered by the Nissan Van range, supporting van owners to get the job done. Search Nissan Vans or head to your local Nissan Van Centre.
With your headlines at 3 minutes past 12, I'm Nick Ellaby. Good afternoon. As Spurs continue to deliberate on who will be in charge for the last 7 games, former boss Harry Redknapp's told us it is time for a change.
The decisions they've made have not worked out for them, and it's been an incredible season, really, Andy, when you think about it. I mean, you could see Tottenham being in a relegation battle.
Spurs are keen to give Tudor space following the death of his father. Other options include ex-Monaco head coach Adi Hütter, former Spurs players Chris Hughton and Robbie Keane, although Keane wants a longer-term deal, and we're told Roberto De Zerbi's waiting to see if Spurs survive the drop. Now, we're told Ben White deserves his England recall despite walking out on the squad 4 years ago, and that comes from someone who never got the chance, Kevin Nolan.
He had his own opinions of leaving a camp, and we all had our opinions at the time. But it's only him who can decide whether he thought that was the right thing or the wrong thing now. What he's done is he's kept his head down, carried on playing well for Arsenal and earned a call from Thomas.
The Football Supporters Association has filed an official complaint with FIFA over what they call excessive ticket prices at the World Cup. They're asking for the dynamic pricing model to be dropped. Meanwhile, would you pay 135 quid for a replica England shirt? Supporters Travel Club member Nick Jones has done. He says, considering inflation, the 90 quid version of Nike's stadium shirt is not a wild price.
I don't think we should be surprised, but I do recognise there is a lot of money for some people, and that's why they're turning to the likes of DH Gates and places overseas which are doing those knockoff versions.
England versus Uruguay is live on talkSPORT this Friday night. Scotland and Wales's Adidas kits will set you back 120 quid each.
talkSPORT News.
New reforms for vets will aim to make things more transparent and potentially cheaper. And the US wants peace talks with Iran. More from the news team at 5:30.
talkSPORT weather with QuickFit. Keep spring journeys safe. Visit your local centre or quickfit.com to book your tyres, MOTs and servicing so you can drive away happy every time.
Mostly dry, cloudy across the south. Elsewhere, band of rain moving southeastward. Windy across the country and gales in the north where it's turning colder.
Good afternoon, everybody. 6 minutes past 12 noon this Tuesday lunchtime. It's Jim White and it's Simon Jordan, and we are live on talkSPORT. Coming up very shortly in this final hour today, we're going to be hearing live in studio from former Aberdeen, Celtic, Newcastle striker, former ex-Scotland assistant boss, and he is Mark McGee, who's going to be joining us here in studio. Hear about Scotland's chances in the World Cup finals in the US of A. No, it won't. And we'll also be finding out from Mark McGee if indeed Hearts can be the disruptor and stop one of the old firm winning the Scottish Premier League title. We'll get to that when we get to that. In the meantime, it's time for this.
Big fight build-up on talkSPORT with DAZN. Watch Moses Utoma versus Jermaine Franklin this Saturday only on DAZN. Sign up now at DAZN.com.
Well, that's right. This Saturday, and you heard it there, the future heavyweight champion of the world in the eyes of many, Moses Utoma, takes on Jermaine Franklin. And we're going to look ahead to the big fight now with DAZN. Simon, I know you're looking forward to it. We love Moses, so much so we've invited the manager of Mr. Utoma onto the show with us. Francis Warren, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, gents. How are we doing?
Good, Francis. Good to speak to you. So it's all on the line this weekend, right? Manchester, and Moses goes in against the American Jermaine Franklin, who says he's not just here to be punched silly on the night. He's going to give a good account of himself, Jermaine.
Jermaine's obviously got his own ambitions, and you know, I don't think, despite however good everyone says Moses is, he's still a 21-year-old learning. He's learning on the job, and Jermaine's an experienced guy who give AJ a real tough fight. So he's got it all to prove, as Moses has. So it's going to be a terrific night on Saturday. As you said, catch it all live on DAZN. Be a great night.
Absolutely. Simon, you do think that Moses will come through this with flying colours and dispatch Jermaine Franklin fairly swiftly. You think he'll knock him out, and so much so you told Jermaine that personally in this very studio.
I did, yes. But I don't think Jermaine, despite the fact he's performed at a very high level with durability against Anthony Joshua and against Dillian White, I don't think he's experienced anything like Moses Utoma in terms of speed, shot selection and ferocity. And I think that it's going to be a difficult night for him. I think for Moses, I'm hoping that Jermaine can do the things that he says he wants to do. I'm hoping that he comes to fight and doesn't just make it difficult and ugly and make him difficult to fight against. I suspect he probably will, because that's the way he gets through this fight. But I think Moses, and so does Paul Smith, and so do other people that I've had on Talk Boxing, think that there's a distinct possibility that Moses will make a really big statement. And the statement will be, if he knocks out Jermaine Franklin, it'll be something that people will hang on to, because it's something that Dillian couldn't do, and it's something that Anthony Joshua couldn't do. Yeah. And I think it's well within, and so does Francis, think it's well within the purview and the gift of Moses. And that's not to suggest that anyone's taking it lightly, but that's what I think will happen on Saturday.
I mean, as Simon says, no one's really managed to get deep into any fight against Moses Utoma at any time. In fact, it's hardly gone past round 2. So in other words, Moses Utoma getting in rounds, Francis, seems a fairly unlikely prospect.
Well, I think the reason why this fight's been made, I think it's a very clever piece of matchmaking, because if Jermaine does make it ugly and we get the rounds in, and if it's a later stoppage, at least he's getting some rounds in. And as Simon rightly says, if he goes out and makes a big statement win and dispatches Jermaine Franklin in any sort of fashion, as he did with Dillian White back in August, then we've got a real, really electrifying next couple of weeks in terms of media and press, and who knows who he might fight in the summer. So I think it's a win-win either way. It's a decent bit of matchmaking, and I don't think it really matters what Jermaine Franklin turns up. I think Moses will have a game plan from Ben and Lee and the team, and he'll execute it. And I mentioned Dillian again, if he executes it anything like he did back in Riyadh in August, then I think we're all going to be very impressed Saturday night.
What I would say, Francis, is Jermaine Franklin sat in this very studio and says, "I want to be the guy that's different. I want to be the guy that we can always look back on and say, I stopped Moses Utoma in his tracks." He's got 26 fights on his record. Moses only has 13. Experience might count here.
Yeah, it's twice as many fights, and as you said, he's been in with a top fighter in Anthony Joshua, so he's got he's got a decent couple of names on his resume, and as I said, he'll have his own ambitions. But Moses is he's a generational talent that we're very, very excited about. He's had a long camp. Obviously, he had an injury in January, so he's had a double time to prepare for Jermaine Franklin. And that may spell double trouble for Jermaine Franklin on Saturday night. I'm very confident he'll go in there and he'll do the business and look fabulous doing it as well.
And if he does, Francis, where does victory take Moses Utoma?
Well, he's number one with the DO. He's up there with the BC and the BA. So, I think we're just basically, we're kind of waiting to see what happens with the world scene with Usyk and what he's going to do after his adventure in Egypt, who he's going to fight and what belts become available. But for now, we'll continue to plan and match Moses to continue his preparation. There's some big fights out there. I mean, he's going to be headlining from now. So there are no more, I would call, learning fights, but there's definitely world title level preparation fights. For that world title, I think he had by the end of the year.
Would you think he'd be ready for a world title shot if he dispatches Franklin, Simon?
Depends who the world title shot's against. If it's against Alexander Usyk, no, I don't think so. If it's against perhaps the winner of Fabio Wardley, Daniel Dubois, which is unlikely, then I think that would be fine. I'd like to see him in against someone like Filip Hrgović, because I think that would even add more credibility, because whilst I think Hrgović is predictable and infinitely beatable, if he dispatches Hrgović in clinical fashion, which I think he would as well, then it's irresistible. The noise, even more than the noise Francis has to deal with now, which is a nice problem, quite frankly. You've got this wonderful prospect that people are chomping at the bit to see. But I think there's little doubt. It's not a case of if Moses Atoma becomes a world champion. It's a case of when. And developing him and making sure that when he becomes a world champion, it's at the right time, so that he can become a world champion with longevity, is all part of Francis's job, and he'll do it brilliantly.
And that's for you to manoeuvre him into that position, Francis, isn't it?
We've also, the IBF's being contested between Torres and Frank Sanchez. I think one of the guys, I have to correct me, but one of the guys has pulled out with an injury, so that's kind of been delayed till the summer. So maybe Moses has one more. I'll be in Vietnam for the IBF convention, obviously petitioning for the winner of that fight. So he's just in a great position to challenge for all four of the governing bodies. But whilst the IBF, is probably the next one on the round robin that we can grab hold of that doesn't involve a Queensbury fighter. So Queensbury will probably likely try to tie up all four belts with four individual guys, and then we've got, and then everyone's in business. But Moses would step up and fight anybody if you asked him to. It's just a case of making sure that it's the right one for him at this time, because he's going to be around for a while. So just want to make, he's still young, and want to take it fight by fight.
And he would knock Frank Sanchez silly as well.
Really?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay. All right.
So you can see where I'm going with that one.
Yeah, you and Moses are on a mission. Francis, thanks for joining us. That was a albeit brief look ahead to Toma against Franklin with DAZN. Remember the fight, Moses Atoma, Jermaine Franklin, is live on talkSPORT as well. And don't forget, you can watch that fight on Saturday only on DAZN. Sign up at DAZN.com.
Big fight build-up on talkSPORT with DAZN. Watch Moses Atoma versus Jermaine Franklin this Saturday only on DAZN. Sign up now at DAZN.com.
Matt, the Tottenham fan, and Matt, what do you know, has called in. Matt, good afternoon. Where are you at after that home defeat to Forest, mate?
Well, guys, nice speaking to you.
Nice to speak to you, Matt.
It's not a great position to be in, to be honest. And thanks to Martin's team, the gloss, the pressure has been taken away, because you guys are too busy, you media lot, are too busy battering a team that's 9 points clear, and you're looking for a downfall from that football club, yet you look down the road and you guys can't even have the decency within yourselves to actually start pointing fingers And all you want to do is blame manager after manager and that player and the other player, but you just can't bring it to yourselves to actually go, do you know what? It was that previous chairman, that parasite, which I'll never give him airtime to say his name because he's Simon's mate, who he can't even have the guts, because he's too busy protecting his mate, to have the guts to actually go, do you know what? Actually, it stemmed from him because they told him, do what you please within the margins. He then does what he wants.
Yeah, but Matt, here's the thing, mate. Daniel Levy wasn't playing on the pitch yesterday when you lost 3-0 to Nottingham Forest.
Jim, let me explain something to you, mate.
Yes.
Let me explain something to you. You got talkSPORT producers, yeah? They brought in Jim White.
It is officially Tuesday lunchtime. It's Jim White and it's Simon Jordan, 12:20, and we are live on talkSPORT. As always, and I think you've got the hang of it now, we're also live on YouTube. We're also live on Apple TV, even Prime Video. So you can watch the show as well as listen to it. Many of you enjoyed Gus Poyet, and I'm delighted about that. It's International Week, of course. England getting together to play Gus's Uruguay. Scotland getting together. Big things are being hoped for regarding Scotland in this World Cup. I know the man to my immediate left doesn't share that view, Lord Jordan. But we'll see what happens once we get out there. I'm delighted to say a fellow who knows all about playing in Scotland, played at the highest level and has managed at the highest level as well, and was assistant boss with Scotland as well. He is with us live in studio. What an introduction. I haven't even started yet. Mark McGee, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It has been a while, and you and I have only just established that there's months between you and I in terms of our age. I'm afraid to say Simon is a youngster in our midst, Mark. I didn't realise. We're both 68, right?
Yeah, I'm 69 in May, so it makes me slightly older than you, I think.
Yeah. Slightly, yeah. Ever so slightly. But you're looking well and you're keeping well.
Yep, very good. Yep, very, very well. Thank you.
Before we start, though, you played at the highest level. I'm going to get into that. And I'm going into the clubs that you played for. You managed as well. These days, whenever anyone comes in here, Gus Poyet in here, yeah, I could do it. I would have a go. Have you called time and management?
Yeah, I feel differently from Gus. You know, I think that I had nearly 1,000 games as a manager, and I'm more than happy with that. I'm not necessarily happy with my performance through the 1,000 games, but I'm happy to have had 1,000 games. So, or nearly 1,000 games. So yeah, I've had enough, and I've got season tickets at Brighton. I go to other games. I go up to Newcastle, up to Wolves occasionally. So I still get to games.
Yeah. And you share with me the thought that Brighton is a special place. He always looks very puzzled at me when I talk so favourably about Brighton. It is a great club, isn't it?
I mean, it was a great club when I was there, and we were playing at the Withdean because there was such a kind of
where they belong.
Yeah, where there was such a kind of force.
Dick Knight.
Dick was brilliant.
Yep.
Dick was absolutely brilliant. He's got as much credit, I think, for the state of the club nowadays as Tony does, because without Dick it wouldn't be there. It would be in a slightly different place, I think.
Yeah.
So Dick done brilliantly. It was a great time to be there. I didn't mind the Withdean Stadium. I sort of weaponised the Withdean Stadium, if you like, and used it, when we played the likes of Leeds and West Ham and Wolves and these big clubs coming down there. We would use it to our advantage, so... it wasn't a bad place to be, but of course it's different now. You go to the Amex, and I do go there because I've got season tickets, and it's absolutely fabulous.
It's brilliant. They beat Liverpool at the weekend. The atmosphere is great, Mark. What Bloom and Barber have done is superb.
Yeah, it is, and it's the infrastructure as well. It's not just the stadium, the training ground and everything that goes with it, and the people, the quality of the people at the club is very high.
Yeah. You want to share in this Brighton loving?
No, I agree. I don't have any regard for Brighton as a team, but I regard the ownership and what they've achieved. You can't not.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there. We played them at Withdean. I went down with Palace. Were you the manager when we beat you 5-0?
No.
No, it was Koppel, wasn't it?
No, but I was the manager when we beat you 1-0 at Palace.
Go on, Mark.
Yeah.
And I think you must have been the manager when we beat you 1-0 at Palace when Tony Warner was in goal. Were you the manager then?
I would have been, probably.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I think it was when Guy Butter scored the winning goal. We had some good results against you, and I think
not many, because you
were
in the league a bit.
But I think I came to Palace with Millwall as well and beat you. So yeah.
Good stuff, Mark.
You did.
Yeah.
Did.
I wasn't exactly fed up beating you, but it was getting a bit.
Welcome to one-upmanship with McGee and Jordan. Listen, I'm enjoying this. Here's the thing: up in Scotland, all the chat is our Heart's going to do it. Do you know something, Mark? I didn't know this stat. You have to go back. Can you believe you've got to go back so far to your time with Aberdeen in 1985, when a club, neither of the old firm involved, won the title. Can you believe that? It's taking so long for someone to be moving into contention, let alone go through and win it.
Well, I think the other thing you'd look around is how long before we won it at Aberdeen had it been won by someone else. So there was another 25 years before that since I think someone else had won it. So, that's been the standard model. Celtic and Rangers win it. That Aberdeen team were a great team, but they had a fantastic manager. That was the difference. Don't give it anybody says we were all good players, but the manager was outstanding. Yeah. And that's what really made the difference. That was the magic dust, if you like.
But in saying that, is that in any way a failing for Scottish football, that for 40 years it's been a foregone conclusion pretty much it's either going to be Celtic or Rangers?
Yeah, but it's a financial thing. It's like, the clubs like Motherwell and these clubs that would be expected maybe to Hibs and Hearts even to an extent, and Aberdeen, their budgets compared to Rangers and Celtic are minuscule, so it's unrealistic to really think that they can go and win it. If Hearts do it, then obviously there's been input from people that we know, and it's made all the difference. Hearts have been knocking. They finished fourth, they finished third, they finished. Then I think they dropped him at seventh last season, and now they're back up at the top. So they've been knocking in the door a little bit, but for the first time, I think people think they could do it. As opposed to being close to it.
Yeah, 11 teams apparently have won the Scottish Premier League.
Is that
11 teams. Celtic and Rangers 55 each. Aberdeen 4, Hearts 4, Hibs 4, Dumbarton 2, Dundee 1, Dundee United 1, Kilmarnock 1, Motherwell 1, and third Lanark.
We know he's shrewd, but did it tell us even more about why Tony Bloom made the move and got involved and invested 10 million in Hearts? I mean, he saw something going on there.
Maybe. Timing's a wonderful thing, isn't it? I mean, you're seeing the decline at this moment in time for this season, not in perpetuity, I suspect, of the old firm. Both of them up until... I know Danny Roll's gone in and done a decent job, and Martin's gone in and steadied the ship.
Yeah.
But there was not good order in either one of the old firm teams in terms of elite performances on the field. I don't care what Brendan says about the amount of money he was given. Their performance in the Champions League was poor against a side that they should have been able to beat, irrespective of whether they got investment post-qualifying or not from the group stages.
Yeah.
Rangers have been a little bit hit and miss with Russell Martin. And so the timing for Tony looks like it was a genius because he would have added some value, because the intellectual capital of what he does and what Matthew Benham does at Brentford, which is analyse and utilise proper diligence when buying players and appointing managers, has proven to be successful. He'd bring it into this as he's brought it into other clubs, Union Gilroy as well. But the timing of the poorness of the two Old Firm teams really opportunities.
At the time, Mark, Bloom said, I'm going in there, we can disrupt the Old Firm.
Absolutely.
That's what it's needed.
I don't think he felt it was do it quite as quickly as they have done, but I think that, going back to just the comment you made there, Simon, I mean, recruitment for me is the heart of everything, and point a manager, of course I'm a manager, I want to have some credit for it, but at the end of the day it's your recruitment, and I think the recruitment of Celtic and Rangers has been diabolical, so it wasn't the appointment of Russell Martin necessarily at the point of whoever was in charge before at Celtic. It's about recruitment, and of course that's what Hearts have now done through Tony's algorithms and Tony's insights.
You played, Mark, for Sir Alex, of course, won the Cup Winners' Cup with Aberdeen, but of course it's Celtic, another of your clubs. There's a fair bit of disquiet between the fans and the board. We'll get into that, get into a bit of Scotland as well. Mark McGee with us live in studio this Tuesday lunchtime.
Let's hear from Leo Rossinha following Saturday's 3-0 loss at Everton. Really poor performance from Chelsea at the weekend.
Yeah, it's been a tough week. These players, some of them, this isn't an excuse. This is a reality for some of these players have played already the most games in a season they've played in their career. Up to this point. What I need to do and what I need to do better is make better decisions in terms of team selection, how we freshen the team up, how we rotate the team to make sure that we're competitive in these games. I think having the international break now has probably come at the perfect time for us to regather, restock, and also we have some clear weeks in the weeks to come where we can actually get on the training pitch for the first time and work with these players in what we want.
Right, accept the bit at the end, right? I think that's important on the training pitch.
Ground,
But I ain't having that, it's more than some of these games these players have played and all that stuff. Come on, that's not what the Chelsea fans want to hear. We're talking about a level of performance here. The level of performance the last few games has been extremely poor. First thing you've got to say, and we've not done enough of it today, we've got to say brilliant Everton, brilliant Sunderland, all those kind of things. But we're looking at Chelsea at this moment in time. No, that performance at the weekend and those performances and the defeat against PSG hasn't got anything to do with players having too many games.
No, that's ridiculous. This is an excuse that I can hear. Honestly,
you can't feel tired.
Paris Saint-Germain has played the same amount of games. Look what they're doing. But you cannot compare Paris Saint-Germain and Chelsea because they are different level. But when a manager tries to find that kind of excuses, I think he's putting finger in front of him and he's trying to hide himself.
talkSPORT's Steve Harmison says Brendan Baz McCullum only deserves 6 months' worth of rope as England head coach. The ECB's Richard Goulds decided to stick with managing director Rob Key as well, despite that disastrous Ashes winter. Our talkSPORT cricket editor John Norman says the elephant in the room is Baz.
We still haven't heard from him, and the big question is he going to change?
Yeah.
And that was a question that was continually asked of Rob and Richard, and I didn't really feel like I got an answer.
Now, as Spurs weigh up a managerial change during this international break, former Monaco head coach Adi Hütter's rumoured to be in the frame. talkSPORT's European football expert Andy Brassel wonders why.
I can't see what particular element of him would recommend him to this situation at Spurs and why he would want to damage his reputation to doing this.
Now, we understand Bosnia midfielder Benjamin Tahirovic has called Steve Cooper to apologise for getting him in trouble. Cooper is the player's manager at Brondby. The Bosnia head coach had accused Welshman Cooper of deliberately dropping Tahirovic ahead of their playoff against Wales, but it looks like Tahirovic was the source of this fake news. Meanwhile, Republic of Ireland assistant John O'Shea says there's a great vibe in the Ireland camp.
It's that cup final scenario. Everyone's wanting to get in the team. The intensity, the noise and the atmosphere around the boys is brilliant.
They play Czechia in a World Cup playoff tomorrow. There's plenty more at talksport.com.
It is Tuesday lunchtime. It's Jim White and it's Simon Jordan, and we are live on talkSPORT. 2 has become 3 because I'm delighted. An old chum of mine, former Aberdeen, Celtic, Newcastle, former Scotland assistant boss, and he's managed a fair number of clubs as well. Mark McGee is in studio with us this lunchtime. Just for Simon, we'll talk about Scotland, Mark, very shortly, as regards their chances and what they may or may not do once we're over at the World Cup finals in the US of A. In Scotland at the moment, we've established it. For once in our lives, we've got a 3-horse race, which is great. It's not just about Rangers and Celtic and Rangers, because Hearts are in there and they are the disruptor. Will they win it?
I didn't think they would a few weeks ago, and I think I still have a hankering for Rangers, to be honest. I think the result at the weekend with Celtic was a disaster. You need to win every game. If Hearts are going to win it, they've got to win every game. They've got to beat Celtic and Rangers. Going back to when Aberdeen won it, we went to Celtic Park and beat them twice in about 3 weeks. And that was the magic. That was the big thing that won us the league that first time. Hearts need to do that. They need to beat Celtic and Rangers.
When you won it with Aberdeen at that time, Alex Ferguson, your manager, of course, did Sir Alex lean on you more of, we've got to win it for the club, for Aberdeen Football Club, or was it more, you've got to stop the Old Firm dominance and we're the ones that will do it?
It wasn't really either of those, Jim. It was more about the sort of personal thing. Us as a group, we can, this is for us. This is a moment, that we can have this glory, regardless of what everybody else was feeling, whether it was the supporters or the directors or whoever it was. We weren't playing for our families, we were playing for each other. And that was one of the things that he really created, I thought, that with that team, that was we really kept a tight group, and we did it for each other, almost.
Yeah, what a team it was. I mean, yourself, McLeish, Miller, Eric Black.
Yeah,
it was a brilliant side.
You've named a few players here. So we had a couple of, I think, great players. Jim Leighton was a great goalkeeper at that time.
Yeah.
Willie and Alec were a great partnership. Gordon Strachan was a brilliant player. The rest of us were good players. We weren't brilliant players, but we were good players. But Sir Alec was the one that made the difference. He made us greater than we actually were, in a sense. The sum of the parts was better because of him. So, there's no doubt that he got the best out of us. But we're a good team.
It's a hell of a story, Simon. Aberdeen. Aberdeen beat Real Madrid to win the Cup Winners' Cup.
I spoke to Gordon about it when I used to do stuff with Gordon, who's a company I really enjoy because he's a fascinating storyteller. But I was going to ask you about Ferguson and his evolution as a manager. Did you see the evolution of him from the Aberdeen manager to what he became?
Yeah. And, I went to a meeting with him before I signed, and in Glasgow. I'd never been to Aberdeen, so I went to get interviewed in a hotel in Glasgow when they were playing in Glasgow. And I went into a sort of room, a meeting room, him and I sitting, and he said to me, I want to win a European trophy within 5 years. Now, at that point, they hadn't won the league in 25 years. They hadn't won the cup in 12 years. So I'm thinking, well, first of all, before they can win a European thing, they've got to win a cup or a league.
Yeah.
But when I came out of that office, not only did I believe that the group of players that he was putting together could, because of the way he described it, but also I've come out of there and I've said to people, I already felt that better player. Coming out of that room, I felt that better player. He told me stuff that I recognised that I wasn't doing well at Newcastle, and he read the script and he was going to fix me, and to a large extent he did. So I thought at that moment, I thought, God, this guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And when he went to Manchester United, and they had a little bit of a shaky time at the start, I used to say to people, just give it time. It'll kick off.
I mean, you did great things with Aberdeen, Mark. You all did. under Sir Alex. But how pleased are you you've got Celtic in your playing CV?
Well, I was a Celtic supporter as a kid, so I came back from Hamburg. I had some issues. I've never really explained to people, but, I had some issues with my family, that my wife wasn't well, and I came back from Hamburg for that reason. I'd still be living in Germany, I think, if I hadn't come back at that time.
Because that was a great move for you, Hamburg.
But it was and it was, it was
Kevin
my big
Keegan
moment.
went there, you went there.
But I had to come back, and if there was anywhere I wanted to come back to, it was Celtic. So I came back to Celtic and had almost 5 years there and had success there with cups and leagues and a brilliant time living in my home city and my family and everybody being able to come along. So it was great to play for Celtic.
Can you believe what's been going on of late at this club? Brendan Rodgers' resignation. Martin O'Neill, of course, from time to time with us on this very show, not at the moment because he's in second interim charge at the football club. The disastrous appointment of Wilfred Nancy. What's been going on? This is Celtic.
Well, I think, with Peter Lawwell winding down and Peter Lawwell eventually, retiring, Peter was a huge influence in how things were managed and how things were driven. As Dermot Desmond's sort of proxy in there, making things happen on his behalf. And I think when he started to lose his focus in a sense, then the whole thing started to get less than it should be. And I think that, it was just going wrong. There wasn't authority there. I even feel it at the moment a little bit, that not with Martin, of course, because Martin has a huge amount of authority. But up to that point, I felt as if there was no leadership. There's not at the top, things like, for instance, you go to the club and you go in the boardroom. It used to be, you used to have to kind of, you didn't get in the boardroom. You know what I mean? It's a kind of a bit like sacrosanct, Now everybody and their brother's in there, and it just represents a kind of change of kind of mentality. I know it sounds petty, but it's just different.
You observed a few things when you were up there with me.
Yeah, between Rangers when I was at Ibrox,
Yeah.
I wasn't hugely impressed with either divide, which is easy to be critical, isn't it? Were you surprised that Dermot went for Brendan the way he did?
Totally.
Yeah.
When he went back for him.
No, not when he went back for him. When Brendan left, Dermot Desmond went into the media and went after him, didn't he?
I see. He went from
trust has gone and all that kind of thing. Mark.
I think
he didn't mince his words.
Well, you have to be. If you're going to accept that, you have to believe what Dermot was saying was true. So if we believe what Dermot was saying was true, then he's got every right to say what he said. Whether it was true or not, I don't know. I can't really be the judge of that. But I think as a chairman and, in the situation, the way it evolved at that time, I would want to say something if I knew it was true.
Yeah. Before we leave Celtic and Rangers, I want to get to some of the off-field unrest. What kind of manager do they need in? I mean, do you think if Celtic end up winning the league that Martin should get it again?
I think there's a place for Martin there. I think there's a place for Martin there for that maturity and that experience. That now, whether it's director of football or whether it's in some sort of mentor role, above the manager and around the manager, I don't see why that can be a bad thing. Someone with his experience and his intellect and everything that goes to his understanding of the crowd, his understanding of the club. I mean, that is invaluable for any manager coming in.
Yeah.
So therefore, why not find something for him to do? But who the new manager might be, I have no idea.
Martin O'Neill will not have enjoyed the experience of going to Tannadice at the weekend. You'll have seen it, and losing 2-0 to Dundee United. And some Celtic fans rounded on the Celtic board in the stands. Stewards had to step in. If you're watching on YouTube, Mark, you can catch that there on that monitor. There were ugly scenes at the end. The Celtic board sitting there, sitting ducks, really, and yards away, taking it in the ear from some of the more extreme Celtic supporters, I would think.
But that's going on at Celtic Park every week. That section, if you're sat in the director's box, that section high up to your left, I mean, there's protests going on there every single game. The fans are hunting, the directors are getting abuse every single week.
So how do they sort that disconnect that we're looking at right there and now?
Well, they first of all, they appoint a manager that's going to, take it back to where they expect it to be, to the standard they expect it to be, give them something that they can, get behind. And then, that'll relieve the pressure, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Mark's looking at these with me, these scenes, Simon. Did you ever experience anything like that? The gentlemen on the left there are members of the Celtic board who are running the gauntlet verbally from the individuals on their left.
I think we've all went through that. And
did you experience it when you managed?
Yeah, I experienced it once when I was manager of Motherwell, actually, and there was about 15-year-olds, outside the ground, and the next morning I get the sack. You know what I mean? Because they were protesting, So
Mark, these aren't 15-year-olds, are they? You ever have anything like that, Simon?
But Jim, there's 50 people there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? There's another 60,000 that have gone and, aren't complaining. I don't know. I think we can make a wee bit too much of that.
Nonetheless, so, Mark, there is disquiet, isn't there?
There is general disquiet, but it doesn't all take on that sort of form. And I think that's to do with results and it's to do with the change that's, having to bring Martin back and with Wilfred and all of that. So, yeah, that has to... Common sense has to come back. That's where Peter Lawwell was great. Peter kept that under control.
Yeah. You know what goes on in the west of Scotland, Mark. And of course, you played for one of the old firm. And more recently, after Celtic beat Rangers in the quarter-final of the Cup, after a penalty shootout, there were the scenes on the pitch. And it was quite unseemly, obviously, and there's still an investigation going into it. Some of the Celtic fans spilled over in the Broomloan stand, and some of the Rangers fans, annoyed that Celtic had just put them out of the cup, they start legging it up the pitch, and it seriously looked bad and was bad. Mark, I want to get your view on it, Martin, in a second. Martin O'Neill spoke about it with us on this very show. So did Graham Souness. Have a listen.
I'm really, obviously, quite saddened by the events, and saddened seemed as almost like as if you're minimizing or downplaying things like this here. But overall, it's a shame, because I think the things that I was hoping that would happen and happened for a long time may now not happen anymore. The full allocation, both at Ibrox and Celtic, maybe been taken away.
Sad, angry, in equal amounts. I have to say that what a difference having the Celtic supporters there. The whole room was full. Just added to the atmosphere. It is, in my opinion, the biggest derby in the world. I've not been to the one in Buenos Aires, but that you have to go to an Old Firm game. But unfortunately, I don't think we'll see that again. I think what happened on Sunday will mean that we won't see away supporters in the stadiums again. Not in those numbers, anyway.
Mark, how sad is that we won't see Celtic fans at Ibrox and Rangers fans at Celtic Park?
I mean, that was all of our first reaction, when that happened. It's tragic, because as Graham was saying there, I've played enough for them to understand what it feels like to play in it, and it's fantastic, you relish playing in games like that, and the punters relish being at games like that, and of course they relish that rivalry and they want to be there. So that there was, diabolical. It really was diabolical, and the outcome is going to be that there won't be both sets of supporters there.
Yeah.
I think that's such a shame.
I don't know where you stand. We're getting into interesting territory with it. On the Green Brigade at Celtic and the so-called Union Bears at Rangers, these so-called ultras. Is it time to kick them out, Mark?
Well, I think it's certainly time to get them and talk to them. I think there has to be, some sort of communication. They have to understand what it is they're feeling, and they have to know what the club, and there has to be some sort of discussion, because in this day and age, I don't think there's any place for it, that sort of extremism, if you like, in both grounds. And I think it's something that has to be, it has to be stopped.
And sort it out.
But it's not going to be stopped by evicting them. It's going to be stopped by some sort of compromise.
You'd be strong, I know that.
I don't think you get anywhere in life by appeasing people. And I think they've appeased the Green Brigade, and I think to some extent they've appeased the Union Bears. I think more prevalently the Green Brigade, because you hear more of their behaviour challenges. You hear it from other football clubs. You hear it from their absolute vociferousness about what they do and don't like. And they're entitled. Football fans are absolutely entitled to air their views of discontent. But when you start affecting others and your behaviour starts impacting upon the reputation of a football club, I don't think appeasement is the way you deal with it. I think you've been asked, you've been given an opportunity to respect the boundaries, to push the envelope, but respect the boundaries. You don't seem to want to do that, so you can get out. And if I change my mind, I'll let you know. And you can have your dissent and your abuse and all the other whether it's sectarianism or whatever else that you want to voice your opinions on. You can have all that, outside of the stadium.
The problem is they get back in anyway, Simon.
Well, that comes down to how much. Listen, I know that there's an old adage: if MI5 want to break into your house, you can put the best alarm system on your house and still get in. But you still have to make it difficult. You still have to understand. People have to understand, with due respect. And it's easy to sit in a studio and be sat in the hotbed of Glasgow dealing with this issue.
Yeah.
But people understand, with due respect to forces, a force of strength, whether there's a Trumpism or not.
Yeah.
They understand where they stand with people. If people understand that people have substance and we're not going to play about. Easier said than done, I grant you. But what's the alternative? Just roll over and let them do what they want.
Hard to disagree with that, Mark, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, but I think there has to be. It has to be come from a point of authority. So there has to be laws.
Yeah.
That allow you to look at these guys in the camera and see who they are. And then take them out if you can, and use the law to ban them. Not that the club can say, we're not giving you a season ticket. It has to be bigger than that.
Yeah, they could have prevented that. That situation in that cup game.
Better policing.
Of course.
Yeah.
Pay the bills, give the police what they require, which is full funding on this particular game because it was a cup game rather than a league game, and shut it down, and you'd have had none of that. And what you've done now is, by the lack of professionalism between the two Glasgow clubs, you've now created another situation where the biggest, arguably the biggest derby in domestic football gets played behind doors of only one set of fans.
Crazy.
Sorry, Jim. The rivalry now is between the fans, because the two teams aren't big enough and strong enough and good enough to represent the way it used to be. I don't think in our day, I played in the games where there was 5 players sent off. You know what I mean? So it's always happened.
Yes.
But I think that the thing now is that it's the fans and not on the pitch, and that's a shame. It has to get back to being the quality on the pitch.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. More from Mark as we head towards 1 o'clock. The bit that Simon will really like: Haiti, Morocco, and Brazil. What can Scotland do come the US survey? We're live in talkSPORT with Selco, where the trade goes.
Here's an interesting one. We're going to start with Arsenal and Bukayo Saka, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I have said for weeks, I love Bukayo Saka.
Me too.
Right? I do.
Me too.
However, I think the form has dipped a little bit.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe.
Did you hear what Pierce was saying? He is tired. Tired of what? He's been injured so many times. He had a proper preseason preparation, a vacation. So I don't know what happened. Is it because of the new players came into the team that has been challenging?
Is he missing Odegaard a little bit?
Well, I'll tell you what I think it is. I just think it's a drop in form, right? I think it's
can happen.
It can happen.
Yeah, I just think I don't know whether it's a confidence.
What would
thing.
you do, Ali? If you're
I'd have played Madueke.
Yeah, if you're manager, would you leave him out for a few games?
I maybe would.
Put the arm around him and say, look, you
super sub.
I maybe would, because I think you've got to pick the strongest team. We can argue about the goalkeeping position, but I think at this moment in time, now you two guys know far more about the Arsenal I'll ever know. I think Madueke deserves a starting position more than most in that particular position. I think, and I'll go even over to the other side, I think Madueke will give you more on that side than perhaps Trossard. I don't know about Martinelli's another. I think he'd do a little bit more game time, certainly more than Saka. No?
I think another problem would be the skipper at the moment, isn't he? Odegaard's out. Can you leave your skipper out?
It's Jim White and Simon Jordan and Mark McGee with us live here in studio, live on talkSPORT, live on your TV as well. And of course, we have a World Cup finals to look forward to. It'd be great if Wales and Northern Ireland can get themselves there as well, but it's a big ask, I think, Mark, trying to get to the US of A. We'll find out in the fullness of time. But you guys, you and Gordon Strachan, had a great period together in charge of Scotland, 2013 to 2017. How'd you look back in that? You're a good partnership. He's his best. You are best mates anyway.
Yeah, it was marvellous, to be working at that level, and with Gordon, of course, and with the others in the team. The docs and the staff were Frank Riley, the administrator. We had such a great team around us and such help from all of these people. It was just brilliant. Unfortunately, we didn't qualify for a tournament, and of course, both Gordon and I feel that badly. We do. We still feel that badly with the moments in the camp, even Kane scoring in the last minute to make it 2-each instead of beating England. Those sort of moments, and you think, what could we have done in that last 5 minutes? And we still live that, and we still regret that we didn't make it to a tournament. But nonetheless, we had a fantastic time doing the job.
Yeah, you're a big fan of Gordon Strachan.
I am, I like Gordon a lot. Yeah.
It seemed to me, Mark, that you and Strachan had something potentially that could have been really special. If you'd maybe been given a bit more time, you might well have done what Steve Clarke has managed to do, and we're heading to a World Cup final.
Well, I mean, let's imagine that that's not the case, that, we had enough time, because we'd had quite a long time, whatever you said it was, 5 years or whatever it was, and we came close, and there were moments where maybe we should have done a little bit better, but nonetheless, we enjoyed... we enjoyed every minute of it.
Of course.
We really, really did.
Yeah. Haiti, Morocco, Brazil. We're in that group. Can they get out of it?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I've always been, as a manager, looked at my fixtures at the start of the season and see who we're playing. And sometimes it works for you because you give yourself a chance against teams that maybe you can win, and you build confidence, and then when you come to play a stronger team, you're already underway. And I think that's a great thing about this draw. Haiti, Morocco, Brazil. That is the right order.
Yeah.
So you beat Haiti, no question.
No question, Mark. No question.
No question. The Morocco game will be a bit more difficult, but they can get a result. Brazil, who knows? Probably no chance. But Scotland will put up a good fight, and they'll put up a fight relating to what's already happened. So if they've got 4 points in the bag, for instance, they've probably qualified. So it's the right draw for.
Is it two from the group?
Yeah, yes. It could end up being two from our group.
It'd be fascinating because you look at it and think about, because ultimately, I don't think either Morocco or Scotland are going to beat Brazil. These are not the Scotland sides of times gone past when you've had mercurial players on the field that can change the direction of travel. You've got an honest Scotland team. I know that the kid up in Napoli is doing well, but notwithstanding that, they're still not a mercurial. So you can beat the Haitians, and surely to Christ you will. You could probably get a point off Morocco, and then it might come down to goal difference, because it's about how many you get beat by Brazil and how you beat Haiti by, isn't it? Haiti by.
Yeah, and interesting enough, you're talking about
almost sounds like I was interested, isn't it?
But Brazil, hopefully going into the Scotland game, Brazil already get 6 points.
Yeah,
and they then give.
Fair enough. Yeah,
right. And
have a rest up. Yeah.
So even if they still beat Scotland, they don't beat you with the 4 or 5 that they've beaten Haiti and beaten Morocco by.
Right.
Because they're winding ready for the next round. So I think the draw is really, really critical here.
Yeah. I think so too.
Hopefully you get pumped by Morocco.
Be quiet. Harvey Barnes said no to Scotland. It seems it's working in his favour, Mark, because he's been called up by Tuchel. Were you disappointed that he said no?
Yeah, I was. Because I think we need as many good players as we can possibly get. We do have some, but we need more. I was disappointed. I understand why the boy made that decision. But
you've got loads of experience working in England. Do England win this thing?
I think, as always, they have a chance. I think they've got great players. They seem to have a great manager. I think he is a very intelligent, kind of measured guy. I think he's got a calmness about him as well that he'll bring to the World Cup and to the campaign over there. I think they have as good a chance as, we've talked them up every time.
Yeah.
But I think this time, who are the standout ones that are going to challenge them? There's a few. So
Spain, France.
What to do? Yeah,
Mark, you can give
Argentina.
You can tell me what you really think when we're at the studio and well away from him. That's great. Mark McGee, brilliant to see you. Absolutely brilliant. Thanks so much for being in here today.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
I share your optimism, Mark, about getting out of that group, and I know he does as well. You'll be.
Oh, yeah.
You'll be absolutely behind the Scotland campaign once we get out there. All of a sudden, it's 1 o'clock. Paul and Andy are on the way. Just into us here at talkSPORT. Harvey Barnes, we know, is in Thomas Tuchel's England squad. In the last few moments, also called up, Arsenal's Ben White has been called back into the England squad, and he is included in the